Chapter 90. When Meng-Chi had turned around, she had been prepared. Before she had flown off the cliff, the silver medicine knife was already in her hand. For Xiuzha, the cliff between her and Ji Wujiang was not very wide. Usually, it would be easy for them to fly over it. But now the mo energy in the sea under the cliff was furiously rolling. They seemed to detect Meng-Chi's thoughts. Wave after wave furiously smashed against the cliff. The world-shaking presence seemed to be able to collapse the entire cliff at any moment. Meng-Chi stopped for a moment at the cliff. Her Ling energy was more than 10 times as abundant as before. Her mind moved. Ling energy quickly poured out from the tip of the silver medicine knife, and quickly drew a formation on the cliff. Meng-Chi's left hand was already holding a handful of Ling stones. At this time, her fingers flicked, and 7 or 8 ninth-grade Ling stones flew generously towards the formation. In a blink, the formation activated. In the soft light, a group of little ghosts burrowed out of the ground. Those little white shadows understood Meng-Chi's meaning, and quickly charged towards the cliff. The pure white shadows overlapped one another. In a flash, they managed to build a bridge from Meng-Chi's side to the other side. In the air, the woman's soft voice came again. You actually... She seemed to sigh softly. Why do you have to do this? Meng-Chi did not speak. The moment the little ghosts started to build the bridge, she quickly walked up to stand at the edge of the cliff. She was only one step away from stepping onto the small bridge that was made up of ghostly shadows. It looked white and soft, but in fact only one person could cross it. It looked quite dangerous. Countless ghostly figures quickly emerged from the ground. Some of them even climbed onto Meng-Chi's body, shielding her in their midst. When the little ghosts were building the bridge, the enormous black waves in the sea of mo energy did not furiously surge and swallow them like they had with the little stones and Dan medicines. On the contrary, the mo energy was slightly friendly to the little ghosts. After they charged out, the enormous waves furiously smashing against the cliff below even calmed down slightly. Meng-Chi took a deep breath. She was actually gambling. Originally, she didn't know what the Devil Chi in the Devil Chi Sea was, but the senior reminded her that it should be Ji Wujiang's inner demons. The demonic Chi would devour everything, but it might be better for things of the same origin. Meng-Chi used Ji Wujiang's Dharma formation. What he summoned was Little Shadow. Sure enough, she had made the right bet. The Devil Chi did not immediately attack these ghostly figures. Meng-Chi took a deep breath and tightened his grip on the medicine knife. Young friend, the woman's gentle voice sounded again. If you don't go over, the cliff is the only safe place. If you go there, the Devil Chi will have a chance to break through the barrier around the cliff. She paused for a moment before continuing. At that time, perhaps it won't be just him who will fall here. Even you will fall here with him. Thank you, senior. Meng-Chi bowed respectfully again in the direction of the voice. She turned her gaze to the opposite cliff. The black-robed youth still did not move. Meng-Chi was actually not sure that the choice she made at this time was the right one. But she knew that even if she had to choose 100 times, she would still not leave alone. Then there was nothing to hesitate about. Meng-Chi held the medicine knife tightly and leaped out. The ghostly figures protected her in layers, and under her feet was a small, swaying bridge. The moment Meng-Chi stepped out of the cliff, the Devil Chi Sea, which had been slightly quiet, suddenly became noisy and wild again. Huge waves crashed into the sky, and the chilly wind howled, making sharp ear-piercing sounds. Even the dark clouds in the sky were spinning rapidly, as if they would cover the sky and smash down in the next moment. In the middle of the dark sea, something was stirring and was about to surge out of the sea. There seemed to be a huge ancient ferocious beast hiding there, and the whole Devil Chi Sea seemed to be about to be lifted. The sea water rose higher and higher, and the black Devil Chi had already seen through the cover of the ghostly figures and rushed straight toward Meng-Chi. Chi. The ghostly figures protecting Meng-Chi were instantly melted by the Devil Chi, turning into a cloud of smoke and disappearing in the air. Meng-Chi held her breath and rushed forward without looking sideways. The crack was not long to begin with, and after forming her gold core, her figure was much more agile than before. In a few more steps, Meng-Chi would be able to set foot on the cliff where Ji Wujiang was. A Devil Chi suddenly swept up and hit the small bridge formed by the ghostly figures. The white figure was instantly replaced by the black devil Qi, and the whole bridge shook violently. The black devil Qi turned its head and rushed directly toward Meng Qi. Meng Qi held the knife in her right hand. She had practiced the silver moon sword diagram before, but she was not familiar with it. At this time, she couldn't care less. The silver medicine knife drew a cross in the air and attacked the devil Qi. A red light flashed on the black devil Qi, and the medicine knife seemed to have hurt it. It suddenly shrank back, almost falling back into the sea of devil Qi. But in the next moment, the devil Qi suddenly became bigger and rolled up quickly, dragging away the silver medicine knife in Meng Qi's hand. "Ah!" Meng Qi exclaimed. The light of the medicine knife flashed in the dark devil Qi, and was instantly swallowed up. At this time, she didn't care about her weapon and took this opportunity to rush forward. Before the devil Qi rolled up again, Meng Qi's feet sank, and she finally set foot on the opposite cliff. She exhaled a long breath, and the clothes on her back were soaked in cold sweat. Meng Qi turned around and looked at the ghostly figures that had completely disappeared behind her. Even the light of the array on the opposite cliff had become extremely faint. She lowered her head and looked at the sea of devil Qi that had begun to hit the cliff again. Wave after wave. The silver medicine knife had disappeared without a trace, leaving not even a trace of light. Sigh. In the air, the woman sighed faintly. In at most an hour, the devil Qi will break through the cliff barrier and attack. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. Meng Qi bowed to the void again. She turned and strode towards Ji Wujiang, who was lying on the ground. The bronze cauldron was cracked, and the medicine knife was lost. The cauldron was fine. She had just randomly found it to refine medicine. This medicine knife, however, was a weapon that Meng Qi had personally refined for herself according to the method taught by Yun Qingyan. To her, it was far more important than the bronze cauldron. Although she could still refine another one, it was still a bit painful to lose it. Meng Qi thought so, but she didn't want to waste a moment. She half knelt on one knee beside the unconscious Ji Wujiang and stared at him. The young man's thick eyelashes drooped, and the 3 scars on his face looked even more distinct and hideous against his pale skin. Other than that, the other wounds on his face had already healed. Previously, his shoulder seemed to be injured, but now it seemed to be fine. Ji Wujiang's breathing was still stable. If he wasn't unconscious, he would look like he was asleep. It was impossible to tell where he was injured. Meng Qi took out a silver needle from her storage bag. Of course, this was not as good as the natal magic weapon refined by Xue Qingxian. It was just a magic weapon that medical cultivators liked to use. It was sold in the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. It was not expensive, and one could buy this 4th-grade silver needle for 10 8th-grade spirit stones. She inserted the silver needle into Ji Wujiang's wrist. The thin needle instantly drilled into the other party's pale skin. Meng Qi's spiritual aura guided the silver needle forward, and traveled all over the other party's body, except for his severely damaged spiritual sea, which could be said to be riddled with holes. Ji Wujiang looked normal. The silver needle quickly flew out of Ji Wujiang's other wrist, and fell into Meng Qi's palm. She narrowed her eyes and thought for a moment. Was it because he overused his spiritual aura that he was unconscious? Even if his spiritual sea was intact, uninjured Xiuzha would repeatedly overuse their spiritual aura. Each time, they would use up all their spiritual aura and completely dry up their spiritual sea. It was also very easy for them to become extremely tired after that. Meng Qi had been in this situation before. Every time, she would fall into a deep sleep and would only wake up after several hours. Not to mention Ji Wujiang's spiritual sea, which was so damaged that it felt like it would completely shatter if she used more force. But no matter how deeply he slept, it was not to the extent that he couldn't be woken up. Meng Qi's gaze narrowed slightly, a faint light flashing through her eyes. She suddenly inserted the silver needle into Ji Wujiang's body again. The other party's spiritual sea was not only in tatters. After a Xiuzha formed their core, an inner core would form. From then on, as long as the inner core was not destroyed, their spiritual aura would be endless. Even if they overused their spiritual aura, they would slowly recover after resting for a while. But at this time, there was only a dim inner core above Ji Wujiang's spiritual sea. The endless spiritual aura that should have flowed out of the inner core was nowhere to be seen. That inner core, like his spiritual sea, seemed to have been injured. Extremely thin cracks could be seen on it. It might completely fall apart at any time. Mengqi took back the silver needle. No wonder sometimes Ji Wujiang could be very strong and sometimes very weak. No wonder he always retreated after one attack and never stayed for long. So that was how it was. Mengqi's eyelids drooped slightly. It really was the first time she had seen such a severely damaged spiritual sea and inner core. With her current level of medical skills, it was impossible for her to completely repair it now. Then what should she do now? Mengqi's brow furrowed slightly as she sat down cross-legged. The small bronze cauldron was cracked and could not be used to make medicine. Also, medicine brought in from the outside world could not be used. She had checked her storage bag. The Ling medicines that she had gotten from Wind Rain Town that she had not used up had all disappeared. Just as the mayor had said, they were useless to them. No. She should still have some Ling medicines. Mengqi suddenly remembered that during the month she had spent with Yun Qingyan, there was a medicinal field in the valley. She had personally opened it and planted the Ling medicines and flowers. Later, when they had matured, she collected them and put them in her storage bag. Mengqi hurriedly checked the storage bag and found a small pile of Ling medicines and flowers that had been preliminarily refined. She quickly picked out a few that Ji Wujiang could use. Without the small bronze cauldron, Mengqi could only directly extract the essence with a spell and put it into Ji Wujiang's mouth. Mengqi took out the last bottle of Dark North pills and stuffed them into Ji Wujiang's mouth one by one. The medicine quickly dissolved. She waited for a while and checked again, only to find that Ji Wujiang's spiritual sea was still empty. Although those Dark North pills were not of high quality, they were not completely useless. Then, Mengqi reached out to help Ji Wujiang up and let him sit against a big rock. She pressed one hand on his back and the other on the young man's chest, and slowly closed her eyes. Mengqi's medical skills had reached the 4th grade. The Dark North technique was originally at the 3rd realm, but it was raised to the 4th realm when it advanced. The Dark North pills she had refined earlier were of low quality and were not very useful to Ji Wujiang. Then she could only use the Dark North technique to fill his spiritual sea. Young friend. The woman's voice sounded again. His spiritual sea is damaged. If you use the Dark North technique to help him recover, you can't stop halfway. Otherwise, his realm will drop, and his spiritual sea will be completely shattered. Unless a medical cultivator of the heaven, earth, or mystic realms helps, he won't be able to recover. Mengqi was stunned. Young friend, have you thought it through? The woman said slowly. The cliff wall can only protect you for an hour. After an hour, the MO energy will attack the cliff. If he hasn't recovered by then, will you and he die here? Her voice became even gentler. Young friend, you have great talent. Why take the risk for a person full of viciousness? Mengqi felt that the other seemed to be getting closer and closer to her. She could even hear the woman's faint sigh right next to her ear. That sweet and gentle voice seemed to be able to touch the bottom of her heart. It was like the warmest big sister was teaching her. You didn't leave him alone just now. You have done your duty as a friend. You treated his wounds and were willing to help him recover his Ling energy. You have done your duty as a medical cultivator. The woman said softly, her voice full of understanding and comfort. You have done your best. You are not related to him, and your relationship with him is not close. Right now, you are only saving your own life so that you can treat more Xiuzha or normal people in the future. If you leave here, no one will blame you. Young friend, the woman said softly. You have done very well by choosing to stay. I am very comforted. You have passed the last test of the 3rd stage. Now you can leave. As her voice fell, another door of light appeared next to Mengqi and the others. Mengqi glanced at that door of light. At this time, that door of light was even closer. She could see more clearly that a soft and thin light separated the two worlds. On the other side, she could even see the anxiety and worry on Si Kongxing's face when he was talking to Su Junmo. Young friend, congratulations on passing the final test. Go back. Your true friends are worried about you. They are all waiting for you. They will be very happy to see you pass the test and return to them safe and sound. The woman said softly, you have done what you should do. Even if you leave now, you can have a clear conscience. Mengqi closed her eyes. Go back. The woman said softly again. Human power is sometimes limited. No one will blame you for this. On the other side of the door of light, in the apricot forest, everything was quiet. In fact, from the moment that the woman opened the first door of light, the apricot forest suddenly became extremely quiet. The sky above the apricot forest seemed to have turned into a huge mirror. Mengqi and Ji Wujiang were reflected in the mirror. The Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference, which was about to reach its final stage, had been divided into 3 factions because of the debate over whether to open the barrier again. Mengqi and Ji Wujiang had passed the second test in the barrier. Moreover, they had passed the third test in an extremely valiant manner. The news had been reported to the sects by the sword cultivators and spell cultivators who had survived until the end. YYXS. Lathan, the news quickly spread to the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference Alliance, to all the major medical sects in the 4 realms, and to the medical cultivators who came to Descending Star City to participate in the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference. Everyone was filled with curiosity. The competition of the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference was mysterious and full of variables. It was said that it was different every decade. Those medical cultivators who were qualified to enter did not know what they would encounter this time before they entered. As for the sword cultivators and spell cultivators who received large-scale training missions from their sects every decade, they only knew that this was the easiest type of training mission among the large-scale sections. However, no cultivator could say for sure what exactly was in the barrier. Therefore, when the news spread that Pavilion Master Pei Mufeng and Su Junmo went to the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference Alliance and requested to open the barrier again to allow them to enter. Although the medical cultivators did not want to be on bad terms with Pei Mufeng and the rest, they could only tell them that there was no way to open the barrier again before the end of the competition. They had been arguing about this for 2 days. Even the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference could not continue. Su Junmo was extremely anxious. It was said that the third test was even more dangerous. If Mengqi really fell into it and could not come out, then he felt that he was not far from death. However, Qin Xiaoma, who had rushed to Descending Star City, was furious. He had already placed his sword on Xue Qingshuan's neck. He looked as though he was about to fall out with the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference Alliance and the Wind Alliance. Xue Qingshuan could only shake his head with a pale face. He told them that the Xinglin sacred ground was a precious place left behind by the ancient almighty tens of thousands of years ago. Everyone had a way to break the rules. They could not open the barrier again before the end of the competition. Xue Qingshuan could only comfort them. Perhaps Mengqi could pass the test and leave the barrier. In these 2 days, Su Junmo and Si Kongxing were worried and anxious. Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng's faces were dark. Their gazes were as though they wanted to kill someone. It was as though they could start a massacre again if Mengqi could not come out. Pei Mufeng stood coldly at the side. No one could guess what this young pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion was thinking. However, he did not leave the Xinglin sacred ground for 2 days and 2 nights. Xue Qingshuan felt helpless and sad. The Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference was really in chaos. In these 2 days, he looked back at the 12 peaks several times. On the peak stood the strongest medical cultivators sect in the 4 realms. His father and the other family heads of the Wind Alliance's 4 major families were there. Xue Qingshuan knew that they were not afraid of Su Junmo and the others. However, his father and the elders had their own considerations. Whether it was Chu Tianfeng, Su Junmo, the mysterious man in black, Qin Xiaoma, or even the beautiful Si Kongxing, they all represented a major sect or family. Su Junmo was even more like an envoy from the demon realm. His father and the elders did not want to become enemies with them. Xue Qingshuan narrowed his eyes. When did they become like this? They had to maintain good relations with the major sword cultivator sects in the 4 realms. They had to maintain the absolute and supreme status of the Wind Alliance among the medical cultivator sects. They had to. Xue Qingshuan felt a wave of irritation. Qin Xiaoma had clearly retracted the sword on his neck. When the cold blade touched his skin, he looked at the man in black's cold gaze. Was he afraid? Probably a little. Even Xiozha were afraid of death. However, more than that, There was a kind of envy that he could not explain that quietly emerged from the bottom of his heart. Shui Qingxian envied Qin Xiaoma. He could be so unrestrained and domineering that he could attack whenever he wanted. He seemed to have never thought about the terrible consequences of offending the eldest son of the Wind Alliance's leader, the future patriarch of the Shui family. The Xinglin sacred ground was in chaos for 2 days. Su Junmo and the others seemed to have made up their minds that they would not leave until Meng Qi came out. All the medical cultivators in the Xinglin sacred ground were no longer in the mood to continue discussing medical skills. Everyone sat on the ground and gathered in 2s and 3s, chatting casually and waiting with them. They were actually very curious. Every time, hundreds of medical cultivators would enter the barrier of the grand competition. But this time, only 2 people had entered. It was said that these 2 people had already passed the 2nd test. Could they pass the 3rd test? Just like that, everyone raised their heads in anticipation. While Su Junmo and the others were waiting anxiously, there was a sudden flash of brilliance in the sky above the Xinglin sacred ground, and Meng Qi, who everyone was waiting for, appeared. Of course, there was also that extremely strange sea of demon energy. In the Xinglin sacred ground, everyone raised their heads and looked at the huge mirror in the sky. Not only could they see it, but they could also clearly hear the conversation between Meng Qi and the mysterious woman. When the light door opened, Meng Qi chose to stay and advance and retreat with Ji Wujiang. Then, she used the ghostly shadow as a bridge and finally arrived at Ji Wujiang's side. When the silver medicine knife was swallowed by the demon energy, there was a wave of sighs in the Xinglin sacred ground. Then, the mysterious woman persuaded Meng Qi and told her that she had passed the final test. Many medical cultivators had envious looks on their faces. Even Xuecheng Wensu and the others from the Wind Alliance looked serious. They knew far more than ordinary medical cultivators about the barrier of the grand competition. In fact, at that moment, everyone looked at Meng Qi with envious gazes. Since records began, almost all the medical cultivators who could make it to the end of the grand competition would be taken in by the major sections. Then, their cultivation would progress rapidly, and they would eventually grow into famous medical cultivators in all walks of life. Now this little girl who was only at the foundation establishment stage was also going to receive this honor? This was the first time that everyone could see the 3rd test of the grand competition, right? Could this be the final test that the mysterious woman who could not see her figure mentioned? Everyone was waiting. The black-robed man, Ji Wujiang, had injured so many of their companions before. Just as the woman said, no one would blame her for abandoning him at this time. She had done her best, and did what a medical cultivator should do. Now she had returned with glory and become a new genius among medical cultivators for the next 10 years. Moreover, she was the only one who passed the grand competition's barrier this time, and she passed it in front of everyone. No matter which sect took her in, they would train her well. It was really enviable. Inside the light gate, on the cliff of the sea of demon energy. But Meng Qi finally spoke and continued. But I will feel guilty. She suddenly opened her eyes and gently pressed her palms on Ji Wujiang's chest and back. Meng Qi's eyes were bright and clear. Thank you, senior. I want to try my best. As soon as she finished speaking, a soft, dark blue light appeared from both of her hands, enveloping her and Ji Wujiang in the middle. Meng Qi closed her eyes again and focused on slowly sending spiritual energy into Ji Wujiang's body. The 4 realms' north underworld art formed a transparent, light blue spiritual energy, gushing toward the other party's spiritual sea. In the apricot forest, the people who were watching this scene with their own eyes suddenly shut up and became completely quiet. Chapter 91. In the apricot forest, the medical cultivators looked up at Meng Qi in the sky in complete silence. At this time, no one was still looking at the people standing high on the 12th peak. Those were the cultivators from the powerful sects that everyone usually looked up to. The medical cultivators Spell Union, the Wind Alliance, the 4 great families, the Shui family, Xuecheng. In the past, these were the powerful medical cultivators that every medical cultivator would look up to. Now they seem to be less attractive than a little Jindan cultivator. On the 12th peak, the family heads of the 4 great families of the Wind Alliance looked at each other, and saw a trace of coldness and helplessness in each other's eyes. This was the apricot forest sacred ground. This was passed down from tens of thousands of years ago. It came from the legendary glorious era, where cultivators were more powerful and many inheritances had not been cut off. Even they could not make the sky above the apricot forest sacred ground become like this. The elders of the medical cultivators' spell union also turned to look at the Wind Alliance several times. Xueqing nodded imperceptibly and continued to look at the sky with his hands behind his back. The elders of the medical cultivators' spell union could only stand on the peak. Even they did not dare to challenge the will of the apricot forest sacred ground, because someone once said that the will of the apricot forest sacred ground also represented the will of the great path of medical cultivation. This time, no one could stop all this from happening. All the cultivators standing in the apricot forest sacred ground at this moment focused their eyes on Mengqi and Ji Wujiang. Beside the two of them was a sea of demonic energy that looked strange and dangerous. The demonic energy that was as black as ink rolled wildly and set off monstrous waves that slammed heavily onto the cliff where Mengqi and the others were. As the demonic energy waves slammed down, the entire cliff trembled slightly. A soft light shield that everyone could see appeared around the cliff. The light shield could still protect Mengqi and Ji Wujiang inside. But every time the black demonic energy slammed into the light shield, it would leave some small cracks. It seemed that the demonic energy would shatter the light shield before long. In the sky, there were still black clouds that seemed to be able to fall down at any time. At that time, Mengqi would not be long. Regardless of whether the Xiuzhi knew Mengqi or not, a threat of worry unconsciously appeared on their faces. The medical cultivators in the apricot forest watched quietly for a while before they began to gather in twos and threes and discuss in low voices. What is she doing? Although they had heard the conversation between Mengqi and the mysterious woman, many people were still confused. They knew that the woman was persuading Mengqi to leave the seriously injured man in black behind, but she chose to stay. This is Dark North art? Xiuzhi quickly recognized it. This was the Xinglin Holy Land, and almost everyone present was a medical cultivator. The Dark North mantra was not a rare mantra. Almost all of the 10 medical cultivators here knew it. Dark North art. Someone mumbled and repeated. She's replenishing his spiritual energy. Why don't you use the Dark North pill? Maybe the medicinal pills are useless in the grand competition. Jindan Xiuzhi? Someone quickly recognized. She is a Jindan First Realm Xiuzhi. I heard that when he went in, he was only a foundational cultivator. A foundational cultivator that passed the final test, TSK. Yes, I also remember that the woman said that she had passed the final test and urged her to leave alone. She said that the MO energy would break through the barrier protecting the cliff in an hour. Why didn't she leave? Yes, who is this black-robed man? Is he the one who injured many of our companions before? Many people still remembered what had happened at the beginning of the medical cultivator conference. However, Ji Wujiang had been wearing a bamboo hat, and a black veil had covered his face so no one knew what he looked like. Is it him? At the time, it seemed that only Mengqi and him were sent into the grand competition together. Why didn't Mengqi leave? From what the woman said, the two seemed to have fought side by side and passed the first two tests. They count as companions. Humph. Their paths are different, and they injured our companions. Why take the risk to save him? Just now Mengqi said, who is the person that should be saved? Who is the person that should not be saved? Let me ask you now. We have chosen the great Tao of medical cultivation. We learn medical skills, recognize spiritual herbs, and are determined to be benevolent throughout the world. Then every time we save someone, we have to figure out whether they have a clean background, whether they have never been a thief or bullied the weak. Only a good person who is clean will save them. But, before we figure out these things, will the person be unable to wait and die? This discussion sounded in almost every corner of the apricot forest. Even on the 12 mountain peaks, some sects were discussing in low voices. On the mountain peaks where the 4 major families of the Wind Alliance were located, it was quiet. Xue Jinwen originally stood at the back of the Xue family group, and did not stand with her sisters. Some of those discussions also reached her ears. Her gaze turned away from Meng Qi's thin figure, and a strange light flashed in her eyes. Xue Jinwen suddenly turned around and quietly jumped down the mountain peak. Her eldest brother, Xue Qingxian, did not stay on the mountain peak. Xue Jinwen quickly walked through the crowd and stood next to her eldest brother, the eldest son of the Xue family and the future head of the Xue family. Third sister. Xue Qingxian glanced at her. Why are you not recuperating in the inn? The poison in my body has been cured. Xue Jinwen raised the corner of her lips and smiled brightly. Thank you for your concern, eldest brother. Yan, right? Xue Qingxian could not help but look at her a few more times. As the eldest brother, he was not biased in the family. However, with two younger sisters, Zichen and Ling Feng, who were extremely talented in both cultivation and medical skills, Xue Jinwen, who was not as good as them, was always neglected. He did not have much time to chat with his third sister. In his memory, Xue Jinwen was always quiet, and was used to standing behind her two younger sisters. Zichen was gentle and demure, and Ling Feng was charming and bright. Jinwen she for a moment, Xue Qingxian did not know what to say to her. He only remembered that his third sister chose to go to the heavens beyond heaven. She did not go to the Xue family's shop in the heavens beyond heaven. Instead, she went to the Xian floating island, and became a cultivator, who was responsible for identifying elixirs and spirit medicines. After that, Xue Jinwen seemed to be even quieter at home. Xue Qingxian later traveled the Westland and spent less time at home, so his impression of his younger sister was even fainter. He glanced at Xue Jinwen again. The bright smile on her face had already disappeared, and her gaze had already landed on Meng Qi. Xue Qingxian followed her gaze and looked over. It was not that he had not seen the slender figure of the girl in the green robe before, but now under the faint blue light of the North Underworld art. In that terrifying wave of monstrous demonic aura, she appeared so dazzling and moving. Xue Qingxian could not help but gently close his eyes. I'm a little envious of her, Xue Jinwen suddenly murmured. Xue Qingxian did not understand at first, but quickly reacted. Whether or not Meng Qi could come out alive in the end, he had already become the focus of the entire apricot forest. This name was bound to spread throughout the four realms. He would become a legend among the medical cultivators of the three realms, and even among this generation of cultivators. Big brother, Xue Jinwen smiled lightly, and her gaze became firm. I want to leave the Xue family. What? Xue Qingxian could not believe his ears. I want to leave the Xue family and no longer consider myself a member of the Xue family. I want to leave the Wind Alliance and no longer accept the protection of the sect, Xue Jinwen said slowly, word by word. At this moment, the apricot forest was even more lively than before. They did not speak loudly, unless one was standing next to them and listening attentively. Otherwise, no one would know what Xue Jinwen had just said. For a moment, Xue Qingxian thought he had misheard. He looked at his third sister. She had a bright smile, and her beauty did not lose to the other two sisters. Third sister. Xue Qingxian frowned. Do you know what you are saying? He paused and said slowly. Are you still blaming father for not saving you in time that day? Did you know that Ling Feng was also injured by Ji Wujiang, and then? No. Xue Jinwen shook her head. She looked up at Meng Qi. Under the crazy attack of the demonic aura, the thin figure of the young girl in green robes should be a small boat in the huge waves, and could capsize at any time. Was she really not afraid? Xue Jinwen slowly clenched her fists. Of course she was afraid too. Big brother. Xue Jinwen looked at Xue Qingxian and asked him. If it were you, would you choose to leave? Xue Qingxian was stunned. Xue Jinwen suddenly chuckled. If it were me lying there, not knowing whether I was dead or alive, or... Her smile had a hint of self-mockery, but she seemed to have seen through everything and was very open-minded. It was my younger sister or elder sister lying there. You only have an hour, and you have passed the final test of the barrier. If you leave, you will be honored and have gained a lot. For the next 10 years, you will be the top medical cultivator among the younger generation. You will have a bright future, and even father will think highly of you. You will be the future head of the family with no objections from the elders. Then, Xue Jinwen asked softly, would you stay or leave? Xue Qingxian was stunned. His hands that were hanging by his side slowly clenched. He used so much force that even the veins on the back of his hands appeared. If it were you, would you leave? In the image that appeared in the sky, the demonic aura waves were still aggressive. On the cliff, Mengqi and Ji Wujiang had not moved for a long time. If it were you, would you leave alone? Or stay? Xue Jinwen was not the only one asking. In the entire apricot forest, no matter what everyone was talking about at the beginning, they would ask the same question in the end. Xue Qingxian closed his eyes again. Xue Jinwen did not seem to need her big brother's answer. There are so many medical cultivators here. I believe that many people will choose to stay, Xue Jinwen said again. She smiled softly. If it were me, I would probably stay too. After all, we have already come this far. Who knows if that woman is lying? She shrugged her shoulders and smiled charmingly. Xue Qingxian clenched his hands and relaxed them again. But father will leave, Xue Jinwen said, because he is the leader of the Wind Alliance and the head of the Xue family. Big brother will leave too, because you are the eldest son of the family and bear the expectations of the family. When he will leave, like big brother, he is the most promising child of the one family in this generation. He is also being trained as the future head of the family. Little sister will leave. Xue Jinwen chuckled. So will big sister. Stop talking. Xue Qingxian closed his eyes and interrupted his third sister sharply. Big brother. Xue Jinwen was not angry. That day when she was poisoned and lying on the ground, she could not control her body, but her mind was clear. Xue Jinwen was not surprised at all. No one in the Xue family took the initiative to help her. Because if they took the initiative to help, it would undoubtedly be admitting in front of so many people that she was a member of the Xue family. Then, the news that the Xue family's disciples were so weak that they were poisoned by an outsider was bound to spread like wildfire. The Xue family could not afford to lose face like this. The Wind Alliance could not afford to lose face like this. Therefore, even though they were looking down from above and could see everything clearly, they couldn't do anything about it. No one would take the initiative to save her. Even Morong Fei, who had once chased after her, could only stand there indifferently. Afterward, everyone would tell her that this was for the sake of her reputation. Only in this way would others not know that the person lying on the ground in such a sorry state was actually the third miss of the Xue family. It was her, Xue Jinwen. Xue Jinwen smiled again. In fact, she should have known. Big brother, she turned to look at Xue Qingxian. Actually, the barrier can be activated again, right? She narrowed her eyes slightly. Even if she was the least valued daughter of the Xue family, she still knew many secrets that others did not know. In 10 years, the barrier can be activated 3 times. The first time is during the Medical Cultivators Conference to select talents for the major sections. The remaining 2 times are for the disciples of the 12 major medical cultivators sects of the 4 realms. Once they pass the barrier test, the rewards will be very generous. Xue Jinwen smiled slightly. Now it can be activated again, but we are not ready yet, so no one wants to waste this opportunity. Moreover, she looked not far away. Su Junmo and Si Gongxing stood side by side. Next to them was the handsome and cold pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion. Behind him, Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma stood side by side. None of the 5 people spoke. They all looked up at the sky anxiously. During this period of time, Xue Jinwen had figured out that these people, including Su Junmo, were Meng Qi's friends. They were truly worried about her. They were not scheming, nor were they trying to please her. They also did not evaluate the value of Meng Qi, and whether it was worth befriending her. They were just worried about her friends. Why? Xue Jinwen narrowed her eyes slightly. Because after recognizing her that day, the only person who took the initiative to run to her and wanted to save her was this girl who was not so familiar with her, and had only interacted with her a few times in the Outland. Her closest relatives were there, but they said that it was inconvenient for them to save her for the sake of her reputation. Xue Jinwen gently closed her eyes. She blinked away the last trace of fog in her eyes and curtsied to Xue Qingxian. Big brother. Her slender hands sank. When she opened them again, she was holding a small and sparkling jade pendant. You. Xue Qingxian took a deep breath. Have you thought it through? Thank you for your concern, big brother. I've made up my mind. As she spoke, she turned her hand and put the jade pendant into her brother's hands. Xue Jinwen smiled at him. Big brother, please take care. After she finished speaking, she flicked her sleeves and turned around. She did not walk to the mountain where the Xue family was. Instead, she went straight to Su Junmo and the others. Xue Chengxian held the sec jade pendant that Xue Jinwen returned to him tightly. The jade pendant was warm and smooth, but it seemed to be deeply embedded in his palm. It was so uncomfortable that his palm hurt. Xue Jinwen left decisively and confidently. She did not even look back. It was obvious that she had already made up her mind. Leaving the Wind Alliance and the Xue family was not as simple as returning the sec jade pendant. From now on, she could no longer use the Xue family's and Wind Alliance's exclusive cultivation techniques and pill recipes. Once she used them again, she would suffer a backlash. Even if she could keep her life, she would become a cripple. Xue Jinwen was his biological sister. Everything she learned came from the Xue family. Although she was not as smart as Xue Lingfeng, she was not weak in other sections. Leaving like this meant that she had to start from scratch, except for her cultivation and medical skills. Oh my God! Is it going to break? That was so close. It didn't break. I was scared to death just now. Oh my God, it's happening again. Is this King over? At this moment, there was a sudden burst of exclamations in the apricot forest. Xue Chengxian came back to his senses and looked up. He saw a huge black wave hundreds of feet high crashing toward the cliff with great momentum. Even though he was not there, Xue Chengxian seemed to feel the power that was enough to shake heaven and earth. On the cliff, the light shield protecting Meng Qi and the others was already full of cracks. It was as if it would shatter with a light touch. Although this huge wave did not shatter it, it made the light barrier, which was already very dangerous, shatter even more. In the apricot forest, there was another burst of gasps and exclamations. Just looking at it made everyone feel scared. No one knew what Meng Qi, who was inside, was thinking. This was not the end. In the blink of an eye, another huge wave that was even more terrifying and taller than the previous one appeared. With a boom, it crashed heavily on the light shield. Not only the light shield, but even the cliff seemed to tremble. This time, Meng Qi finally raised her eyes and looked in the direction of the huge wave. Her hands were still tightly pressed against Ji Wujiang's chest and back, and light was flowing around her hands. Meng Qi. In the apricot forest, a medical cultivator suddenly shouted, "You should leave now. Don't stay here any longer." "That's right. Leave that place. No one will blame you," another person shouted. Meng Qi, go. You've done enough. You've done everything you can. Leave now. Meng Qi, go. Don't stay here any longer. No one will blame you. Boom. Another loud sound rang out, and the cliff and the light barrier shook together. Meng Qi, go. Meng Qi, can you hear me? My sect has a spell that is good for defense and survival. I'll teach it to you now. Someone suddenly shouted. My sect has it too. I know it too. Everyone, stop arguing. It'll be strange if Meng Qi can hear you. Let's pick the most powerful one and the easiest one to learn, then tell Meng Qi. Okay. My sect's defensive spell is at the 6th level. Mine is at the 5th level, but I can cast a spiritual qi armor at the 1st level, which is impenetrable by fire and water. I know a 7th level defensive spell. It's very short and easy to learn. It was difficult for medical cultivators to divide their attention to cultivate sword techniques or offensive spells because almost no one would choose an offensive magic treasure. Therefore, their offensive spells were often very weak. However, after experiencing many tragic catastrophes for tens of thousands of years, most disciples of medical cultivator sects would cultivate a defensive spell, and it was usually not weak. Those medical cultivators quickly gathered together to discuss the result. They did not know if Meng Qi could hear them. The medical cultivator, who had the easiest defensive spell and could cultivate it to the 7th level, immediately began to chant his sect's defensive spell loudly to the sky. In this way, there was no way to guarantee that no one around would secretly learn it. However, he obviously could not care so much now. Meng Qi, you must come out alive. Even if there's a slight chance, you must save your own life. Yes. Come out alive. As long as you can come out alive, I will use the power of the entire sect to save you. Come out alive. Even if your bones and tendons are broken and your body is smashed into pieces, as long as your divine consciousness is not destroyed, we will definitely save you. Xue Qingshuan's hands, which were hanging by his side, clenched again and then relaxed. He turned his head to look in the direction his sister left. Xue Jinwen raised her head and looked at the sky with bright eyes. She had long stopped looking at him. It had only been a while, but she and Si Kongxing seemed to be very close. The two girls, who were also dressed in red, were holding hands and looking in the same direction. Xue Qingxian took a deep breath and turned his head to look at the 12 peaks. That was where the most powerful medical cultivator sects were. However, it was so quiet on the peaks. No one spoke. In reality, Xue Qingxian also knew that those large sects were not as cold as they appeared to be on the surface. Just now, those Xiuzha who had clamored to teach Mengqi defensive spells and told her that she had to survive, and that they would use the power of the sect to save her. There were several Xue Qingxian. Even if he did not know their names, he knew they looked familiar. Their elders must be standing on the 12 mountain peaks. It was not convenient for them to speak. The juniors dared to speak so confidently. At least the elders in the sect would not object. Then, Xue Qingshuan's hands clenched tightly. He should. In the apricot forest, another wave of exclamations sounded. An enormous wave that almost blotted out the sky slammed down. The light shield that had been on the verge of collapse finally could not withstand it and completely shattered. On the cliff, Mengqi and Ji Wujiang were completely exposed to the attack of the sea of Mo energy. Her expression changed slightly. Several drops of cold water condensed from Mo energy fell on her face. In that instant, coldness seeped into her body and into her bones. Just a little bit more. The sea of Mo energy seemed to have exhausted its strength in the attack just now and calmed down. But the Black Missouri energy surged as though it was brewing an even more terrifying attack that was enough to kill in one blow. Little friend. The female voice that had been silent for a long time sounded again. She sighed softly. You've already done enough. Now this is your last chance. If you don't leave now, even if a great doctor of profound heaven realm comes, it will be difficult to save your life. Mengqi did not speak. Light flashed in her hands. Not only was there not much time left, she was almost unable to hold on. Little friend, you have done your best. Let him go. The woman said softly, he will not blame you. Mengqi simply closed her eyes and used all her strength. The light of the dark north art flashed, and the last bit of Ling energy was sent into Ji Wujiang's body. Outside the cliff, the sea of Mo energy surged again. Enormous waves more terrifying than the previous one slowly rose. As though 100 zhang high wall had been erected on the sea. Mengqi could hear the movement behind her. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. The enormous waves behind her were already crashing down crazily toward her. In front of the thick and tall waves that were like 100 zhang high wall. Not to mention Mengqi. Even the cliff looked incomparably small. The last bit of Ling energy in Mengqi's hands turned into the dark north art, and was completely sent into Ji Wujiang's body. She breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing the loud noise behind her, Mengqi turned her head and glanced. She was almost scared out of her wits. She quickly turned back and leaned over completely subconsciously, blocking Ji Wujiang in front of her. Chapter 92. Another round of exclamations sounded in the apricot forest. Is she out of spiritual energy now? She should be gone. What should we do now? Why isn't that person awake yet? In the past, will people die because of the enchantment barrier? It seems to have happened before. Mengqi. Si Kongxing was so anxious that she almost jumped up. She extended her body and was about to rush into the sky. Stop it. Su Junmo grabbed her arm with a solemn expression. It's no use. We can't break in. But. Si Kongxing stomped her feet and tried to break free from his grip. Are we just going to watch? She wanted to rush up but was caught by Su Junmo. The huge wave of black demonic energy had risen and was about to hit the cliff in the next moment. Just the momentum alone was enough to destroy everything. Not to mention Meng Qi and Ji Wujiang, even the cliff would be smashed into pieces. Su Junmo looked up at the sky with a solemn expression. His lips quivered slightly. His lord wouldn't just stand by and watch, right? Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiaoma, who were standing behind them, changed their expressions drastically. They looked at each other. They didn't expect things to develop to this point. They didn't make a move because Su Junmo said that this was a test of the Medical Cultivators Conference. If they could pass it, Meng Qi would benefit immensely. They could wait and see. Wait my ass. Chu Tianfeng was so anxious that he cursed. I'm not waiting anymore. With a puff, his natal treasure jumped out, and the red lotus bloomed beside him. It suddenly turned into 12 flowers and shot toward the sky. With a soft clang, Qin Xiaoma's natal sword appeared, and the tip of the sword pointed toward the sky. Cold light flashed, and it also shot toward the sky. Si Gongxing shook off Su Junmo's hand. The medical cultivators in the apricot forest saw the red-clothed girl suddenly jump up. Black water suddenly gushed out from her hand. Si Gongxing raised its hands, and the black water rushed towards the sky. You. Sigh. Su Junmo stomped his foot. Let's fight, he muttered to himself. Su Junmo suddenly reached out and flicked his fingers 7 times in a row. Suddenly, 7 small silver stars appeared in the sky. The stars flickered and shot upwards as fast as lightning. Pei Mufeng closed his eyes. He stretched his hand into the air, and a slender sword suddenly jumped out. The hilt of the sword landed firmly in his hand. The pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion struck out with his sword. The sword radiance was so dazzling that it could cause the stars to fall. Everyone saw the youngest pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion suddenly shoot up toward Meng Qi, who was in the sky. At the same time, he held the sword hilt horizontally with both hands and suddenly struck out. The sword radiance cut across the sky like a waterfall. It was as though even the sky was split in half by the presence of the sword. Xue Cheng's gaze was heavy. He looked down from the sword radiance and finally landed on Pei Mufeng's face. He was so young, but he had even formed a sword spirit. With such terrifying talent, no one in the 3,000 worlds would be able to avoid this sword radiance in the next few hundred years. Xue Jinwen looked at her elder brother one last time before she looked away. A small medicine knife was held in her hand. Her feet tapped lightly on the ground, and her slender figure shot into the sky. The medical cultivators knew very few offensive spells, and could not compare to the presence of the people beside her. Xue Jinwen also knew that what they did was probably a drop in the bucket. In the eyes of the elders of the Xue family, it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It was a waste of Ling energy, and was not worth mentioning. But since she had made up her mind, she wanted to be crazy for once, and follow her heart for once. All of this happened in an instant. In the air above the apricot forest, spells and long swords intersected and flashed past the eyes of every Xiuzhi present. In the sea of Mo energy, Meng Qi's right hand was on the ground as she protected Ji Wujiang's upper body in front of her. Her left hand quickly took out several North Dark Dan, threw them into her mouth, and swallowed. As soon as the Dark North pill entered his stomach, strands of spiritual energy immediately rose from his empty spiritual sea. Meng Qi could hear the enormous sound of waves crashing into the sky behind her. She could hear the roar of Mo energy. She widened her eyes as she focused on dissolving the medicinal power of the North Dark Dan. At this time, she could not attend to anything else. Her free left hand pinched Ji Wujiang's unharmed left cheek. Ji Wujiang! Ji Wujiang! Meng Qi shouted loudly. Ji Wujiang! Ji Wujiang, wake up! Ji Wujiang! Meng Qi gritted her teeth as she pinched Ji Wujiang's face even harder. The other's originally handsome face was almost twisted out of shape by her pinching. Ji Wujiang, if you don't wake up, we will die. Meng Qi shouted even louder as though she wanted to wake Ji Wujiang up. Everyone in the apricot forest had been shocked by the scene, their hearts in their throats. But when they saw Meng Qi like this, they couldn't help but laugh. Behind her, the enormous wave of Mo energy grew higher, and was about to connect with the sky. The enormous and thick wave of Mo energy almost sucked up the entire sea of Mo energy. The Mo energy furiously surged within. Just looking at it was terrifying. Then the huge wave rolled and surged crazily, slowly tilting forward. In the next moment it was going to slam down. Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi took a deep breath and said loudly, "You still owe me a lot of Ling stones. Wake up, Ji." "Got it." A lazy man's voice suddenly sounded, interrupting Meng Qi's last call. The man, whose eyes were still tightly closed and whose face was as pale as a ghost, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were astonishingly bright as they quickly swept across Meng Qi's face. "Get out of the way." Ji Wujiang pushed off the ground with his left hand and sat up. In the blink of an eye, a pitch-black narrow saber was already in his hand. Ling stones, ling stones, ling stones. The narrow saber instantly stabbed into the hard ground of the cliff, as if it was just tofu. Ji Wujiang jumped up. His black figure was as fast as a ghost, as if it had turned into an afterimage, galloping over the cliff. Meng Qi didn't need his instructions at all. She already had a large handful of Xian spirit stones in her hand. Xian Ling stones. Most of the medical cultivators from the large sects didn't lack money, but they were still dazzled by the sight. A little cultivator who had just formed his gold core took out such a large handful of Xian spirit stones. He was really too amazing. Following Ji Wujiang's movements, the Xian spirit stones in Meng Qi's hand were quickly thrown out. First-grade spirit stones didn't have much spiritual qi and didn't shine brightly. 6th and 7th grade spirit stones were already considered bright. If you took a few more, it would be enough to light up at night. As for Xian spirit stones, they could already be said to be shining brightly. The spell formation hadn't been activated yet, but the entire cliff was already shining with brilliance, looking incomparably resplendent. Ji Wujiang stopped and stood steadily beside Meng Qi. Meng Qi was just about to say whether they should leave and let the spell formation fight with the huge wave. "Don't be afraid." As if he had guessed what Meng Qi wanted to say, Ji Wujiang raised his right hand. He was clearly unconscious just now, but now he was incomparably arrogant. "We'll stand right here." He waved the narrow saber in his hand at the huge black wave. "If it hurts even a strand of your hair, I'll give it my head as a wine cup." Meng Qi. As if also angered by Ji Wujiang's incomparably arrogant words, there was a loud boom, and the huge wave suddenly poured down in torrents. On the cliff there was no sound, and suddenly, light shone brightly. Countless bright white lights rose from the cliff. The huge wave looked incomparably terrifying, but it was forcibly stopped in mid-air by the translucent white spell formation. This wasn't the end. In the middle of the white light, specks of red light seeped out. There were more and more red lights, and they were also getting bigger and bigger. First it was a pair of fiery red wings, then an elegant neck and a small head. A clear bird's cry resounded through the sea of demonic aura. The fiery red phoenix flapped its wings and flew up from the cliff just like that. Ji Wujiang's face was smug, and he happily snapped his fingers. The phoenix let out a long cry, and its huge wings spread out, covering the sky and the sun. It looked even more glorious and majestic than the huge black wave. Even the huge wave seemed to shrink back. "Go!" Ji Wujiang pointed his narrow saber forward and shouted softly. The phoenix was extremely obedient. It flapped its wings and swooped forward. Wherever the red light passed, the black demonic aura, which was incomparably arrogant just a moment ago, turned out to be so fragile. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang swung his narrow saber lightly, jumped up, and rushed toward the huge black wave with the phoenix. He moved extremely quickly, and in the blink of an eye, he was back. Behind him, the demonic aura, which was still aggressive just a moment ago, was already fragmented, and there wasn't much left. "Here." Ji Wujiang raised his hand and threw something to Meng Qi. "My saber." Meng Qi hurriedly caught it. She held it in her hand for a moment. Not only was the silver medicine saber not damaged at all, but it also seemed to be brighter than before. "Huh." Meng Qi suddenly waved the medicine saber. "It seems to have leveled up. Count yourself lucky." Ji Wujiang snorted softly and put the saber back into his body. He turned to look at the demonic aura that had almost completely dissipated. Under the sky, the phoenix soared in a circle and shook the bright fiery red feathers on its body. It seemed to have turned its body, its head facing Ji Wujiang's direction, and then it slowly lowered its head toward him. However, Meng Qi's attention was completely focused on the medicine saber that he had lost and recovered, so he didn't notice this scene. In the apricot forest, many people saw it. However, they had long been shocked speechless by this sudden change. So what if the phoenix lowered its head? What a frighteningly powerful combat strength. Such a terrifying combat method that they had never heard of before. Who exactly was this black-clothed man Ji Wujiang? It's a royal. Only Su Junmo and Si Kongxing, who had seen Meng Qi escape danger and land on the ground again, were shocked to see this scene. They looked at each other and saw the affirmative answer in each other's eyes. That was a heavenly demon phoenix. It was a heavenly demon phoenix that was like the incarnation of flames, its feathers fluttering. Even a feather on its body was a rare heavenly treasure. It was a phoenix of the royal family of the heavenly demon that could make practitioners fight to get their hands on it. Then who exactly was Ji Wujiang? Su Junmo only felt a chill coming from the soles of his feet. No. He had to report this matter to his master as soon as possible. Ji Wujiang had already turned his head to look at Meng Qi. Seeing that she was still playing with the medicine saber in her hand, he couldn't help but say, "Stop looking at it, it's refined by demonic aura, your medicine saber. Let me see, what kind of scrap metal is this made of? Didn't you knock a random stone from the roadside to make it? I saw you holding it like a treasure, so I thought it was some rare spiritual martial art. But, TSK, what a waste." Meng Qi was now sure that Ji Wujiang would be fine for the time being. She put away the medicine saber and ignored him. She turned to look around. It was silent on the cliff. The light door opened by the mysterious woman had also disappeared. Meng Qi looked around. The place without the sea of demonic aura seemed quiet and empty. It seemed that she had angered the mysterious senior by not listening to his advice. Now, she could only rely on herself and Ji Wujiang to find a way out. Ji Wujiang followed her gaze and looked around. He said, "Next, is there a postgraduate entrance exam?" "I'm not sure." Meng Qi shook her head. She couldn't be sure now. The mysterious senior had said that she had passed the final test. But now, let's look around first. Without the sea of demonic aura, this cliff didn't even care about Meng Qi. Oh, Ji Wujiang raised his eyebrows. Let's find the eye of the formation. This illusion formation. He narrowed his eyes. It's interesting. Okay. Meng Qi also nodded. Young friend. In the air, the woman's gentle and pleasant voice finally sounded again. She called Meng Qi and continued, "You are very good." "Senior?" Meng Qi was stunned and looked at the sky. "Come here." The woman called softly. Before Meng Qi could move, Ji Wujiang had already stepped forward and protected her thin body behind him. He raised his long eyebrows slightly and looked at the sky with a gaze as sharp as a knife. "Who are you? What do you want?" "Ji Wujiang." Meng Qi hurriedly called out to him. Obviously, the mysterious senior must be inextricably linked to the almighty medical cultivator, who created this Xinglin sacred land tens of thousands of years ago. Maybe she was the owner of this Xinglin sacred land tournament's barrier. The other party was a medical cultivator senior, who had advised him to leave, and didn't do anything to hurt him. Meng Qi didn't want Ji Wujiang to offend her. "It's okay." The woman said softly, "Young friend, you are open-minded and have a firm will. I am very comforted to have a junior like you on the path of medicine. Besides," she paused for a moment. "Come here," the woman said again. Ji Wujiang still looked unruly and looked at the sky vigilantly. Meng Qi knew that he was worried about him, so he waved at him and strode forward. "Young friend, is your name Meng Qi?" "Yes," Meng Qi responded respectfully. "My name is Lin Yan," the woman said. "Lin Yan." Meng Qi suddenly widened his eyes and looked in front of him in disbelief. Not only him, but there was also a series of gasps in the Xinglin sacred land. Too many things had happened today, so shocking that they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. However, for the medical cultivators, no matter how steadfast Meng Qi was, and no matter how handsome Ji Wujiang was, it was not as shocking as this name. Lin Yan. If it was that Lin Yan, sure enough, Meng Qi asked carefully, "May I ask if you are the senior Lin Yan who broke through the 9th level and became a profound realm doctor?" "That's me," the woman said with a smile. "I didn't expect someone to remember my name." "Of course I remember." Mengqi looked up, and his eyes were slightly hot. Senior, you were already at the Mahayana realm, but in order to save the cultivators and ordinary people in the 6 cities and 8 towns in the southern land, you voluntarily dispersed your cultivation. Later, you fell from the Mahayana realm to the insightful emptiness realm. It was difficult for your cultivation to improve in your life, and there was no hope for you to ascend. I have read about Senior in books, and I only feel fascinated. I wish that I could be born 10,000 years earlier, and be by your side. Even if I can share some of your worries, it would be good. Haha. Her tone was sincere. Lin Yan said with a smile, just share my worries? Mengqi blushed and was a little embarrassed. I also want to listen to Senior's teachings from time to time. The books recorded the flourishing age of cultivators in the 3,000 worlds tens of thousands of years ago, but it was actually incomplete. However, tens of thousands of years ago, medical cultivators came out in large numbers. They had countless elixir recipes and wonderful methods. They talked about Tao and discussed life and death. Every time Mengqi read about it, she yearned for it. After several catastrophes, not only the equipment cultivators, but also the medical cultivators' inheritance was cut off. Countless elixir recipes and medical cultivation methods were annihilated in the long river of history. Even though medical cultivators had been working hard for tens of thousands of years, it was difficult for them to regain their former glory. Mengqi was not good at lying, and the other party was a powerful senior that she admired very much. Since Lin Yan asked, she answered directly. She was really willing to share his worries side by side. Mengqi was also very willing to listen to the other party's teachings and take a glimpse of the glorious era tens of thousands of years ago. Mengqi. Lin Yan smiled again. Are you willing to be my disciple? Mengqi felt like the world was spinning. Her throat was empty. For a moment it was dry and hoarse. She couldn't make any sound. Her heart was thumping so fast that it was about to jump out of her throat. Mengqi couldn't believe her ears at all. She even wanted to pinch herself hard to see if she was still in the illusory formation and hadn't woken up. Lin Yan, the Lin Yan that she admired and yearned for as her vision. The other party actually asked her like this. Yes, yes, yes. Of course she was willing 100, 1,000, 10,000 times. Humph. Ji Wujiang stood at the side and snorted coldly. Mengqi's little face was red. Her eyes were bright, and her excitement and yearning were overflowing. He still remembered how she rejected him without hesitation when he wanted to take her as his disciple. Mengqi was pulled back to reality by Ji Wujiang's snort. She suddenly remembered that she had made up her mind to take Yin Qingyan as her master. Yin Qingyan treated her very well. She had given her a new lease of life in her previous life, and it even benefited her in this life. She couldn't be so infatuated with Senior Lin Yan that she even forgot about the other senior's kindness. Mengqi's little mouth was slightly flat. She was about to cry. Humph. Ji Wujiang was angry when he saw this. He turned his head and ignored her. During this period of time, he and Mengqi had been together, especially after this time in the Sea of Devil Aura. He already had a good understanding of this girl who was determined to do things. Mengqi liked medicine. She liked it very much. Now that she met a senior who was probably a super powerful medical cultivator, and the other party was willing to take her as a disciple, Ji Wujiang didn't need to ask or look to know that she must be very tempted. However, she had a promise to someone else. This stubborn girl was very protective and respectful of that person. She must be struggling in her heart right now. Ji Wujiang instantly had a better impression of this woman named Lin Yan. She was able to let him see Mengqi struggling like this. He vaguely felt that he seemed to have vented his anger of being rejected. Moreover, there was finally someone who would risk her life to protect Mengqi. That mysterious and short-sighted guy was at least on par with Mengqi in her heart. He was someone who could make her hesitate. Awesome. Ji Wujiang crossed his arms in front of his chest and leisurely watched Mengqi's expression change. It wasn't just him. The medical cultivators in the apricot forest were also stunned at this moment. Even on the 12 peaks, the sect masters and elders of the major medical cultivator sects who had been able to remain calm and watch calmly earlier were a little uneasy. No one doubted the woman's words. Even the elders of the Medical Cultivator Dharma Assembly Alliance and the sect masters of the major sects didn't know, because this was the apricot forest. According to the old legends, this was a paradise left behind by the ancient mighty. It was the last holy land that the medical cultivators had preserved with great difficulty. It wasn't strange that Lin Yan was the one who could control everything in this barrier. So, Lin Yan was willing to accept a disciple. It was that Lin Yan. Even tens of thousands of years ago, when medical cultivators were powerful, it was said that 8th grade medical cultivators were everywhere, and 7th grade medical cultivators were inferior to dogs. There were only a handful of mystic realm medical cultivators. Just as Meng Qi said, if Lin Yan hadn't voluntarily dispersed her cultivation in order to save the cultivators and people of the 6 cities and 8 towns in the southern land, her cultivation would have fallen from the Mahayana realm to the insightful void realm. Then she would have had the chance to become an earth realm medical cultivator. Moreover, since ancient times, no cultivator in the 3 realms had been able to ascend. A Mahayana realm cultivator was already the true top cultivator in the 3 realms. Such a big shot had opened her mouth to accept Meng Qi as her disciple, but she was still hesitating. These medical cultivators were worried about Meng Qi just now, but now they wanted to press her head and force her to kneel down and acknowledge him as her master. Immediately, that was a mystic realm medical cultivator, Lin Yan. Meng Qi raised her head, bitterness in her mouth. She wanted to cry. She wanted to acknowledge Lin Yan as her master. She wanted to see those peerless doctors from tens of thousands of years ago, who had the legendary ability to bring people back to life. But she couldn't. Lin Yan didn't urge her. She had waited for a long time, so she didn't care about waiting a little longer. Meng Qi pursed her lips, her eyes red. I really want to acknowledge you as my master. But she felt wronged. Meng Qi continued even though she felt wronged. I once met another senior. He has done me a great favor. Although I haven't received his permission to acknowledge him as my master, I have already regarded him as my master. I'm also working hard to get him to accept me as his master. So, Meng Qi choked and almost cried, but she continued. I can't acknowledge you as my master without that senior's permission. Ji Wujiong, the medical cultivators of the apricot forest, the elders of the Medical Cultivator Alliance on the 12 Peaks, the sect masters, elders and disciples. Even Lin Yan seemed to be a little surprised. She was silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled. Okay. Lin Yan smiled gently. After what happened just now, I'm not surprised that you would say something like that. Meng Qi was determined and had her own path. This was good too. Although you and I aren't fated to be master and disciple, we are still fated. Lin Yan smiled and said, You like books, so I'll give you a book. Ah. A white light suddenly entered Meng Qi's glabella. She hurriedly took 2 steps back, her body swaying a little, and she couldn't stand steadily. A moment later, Meng Qi's face suddenly revealed a hint of surprise. She looked up at the sky in surprise and joy. Say, Senior. She muttered. Senior Lin Yan did this. She had clearly refused to become his disciple. My little friend's Tao heart is clear. I like it very much, Lin Yan said slowly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was gentle and warm, like a spring breeze, but it was clear enough to reach the ears of every cultivator in the apricot forest. Since you and I aren't fated to be master and disciple, we can be considered friends despite the difference in age. This profound realm great doctor, who was once famous in the 3 realms tens of thousands of years ago, finally revealed some of the pride of a genius medical cultivator. From now on, you can call yourself Lin Yan's friend. Lin Yan paused for a moment before she replied gently, Go ahead. Chapter 93. Lin Yan's voice completely disappeared. Meng Qi looked up at the sky. After the sea of demonic aura dissipated, the black clouds also dissipated, revealing the original blue sky. The cliff under their feet also started to change and finally turned into a green mountain. The green mountain was not tall, and one could not see the end of it. Meng Qi was a little disappointed. Senior Lin Yan probably won't speak anymore. Her voice was full of regret. She rejected him so firmly just now. but her heart felt like it was being scratched by countless cat claws. Ji Wujiang snorted softly and did not speak anymore. In the beast house in Meng Qi's storage bag, the little white tiger narrowed its eyes slightly, and its gaze flickered. Its furry little paw tapped lightly on the bed. It had heard of Lin Yan's name before and knew that she was a famous doctor tens of thousands of years ago. Meng Qi even rejected her. Ha! The little white tiger tapped lightly on the bamboo bed in the beast house again. This illusion array was very powerful, and should be the strongest part of the entire barrier in the competition. Even an ancient doctor could not set up such a powerful Dharma array. Not only did she leave behind a wisp of her will, but it could also transform into different forms according to the person who entered. He tried to talk to Meng Qi just now, but the other party could not hear anything. TSK. He could see more clearly than Meng Qi. This illusion array should have been left behind by Lin Yan to find a successor for her. This genius medical cultivator, who was famous in the three realms tens of thousands of years ago for her magnanimity, should not care about the identity and background of her successor. Thus, she left this illusion array to test the person's will step by step, and finally choose the disciple who was most suitable for her. Meng Qi looked indifferent, but she had her own way of doing things. When she decided on something, she was stubborn and stubborn. She did not expect to be favored by this ancient mighty figure by chance. However, she actually rejected it. The little white tiger, Yun Qingyan, snorted softly. She could even bear to reject Lin Yan. That person's position in Meng Qi's heart was really unshakable. He narrowed his eyes and stretched his claws lazily. Their heavenly demon white tiger clan had already not cleaned up their house for too long. From the looks of it, it was time to investigate who had crossed the boundary to the trichiliocosm and actually taught all the secrets of the clan to a little human female cultivator. The Meng Qi's talent in array formations was naturally not a problem. However, the heritage of the heavenly fae was not something that could be casually passed down to outsiders. He did not accept any disciples, nor did he have any. Even though Yun Qingyan was still in her cub form, she could tell that Yun Qingyan had suddenly frowned. Not accepting a disciple, could it be? He was shocked by the sudden thought that came to his mind. In the blink of an eye, Yun Qingyan recalled Meng Qi's determination to become that person's disciple. He suddenly felt a little gloating. He quietly ran to the 3,000 Worlds Protectorate and passed on everything that could be passed on to Meng Qi. Why aren't you accepting a disciple? Was he looking for a Tao companion? What a pity, the little girl only wanted to be his disciple. Let's go. Meng Qi looked around reluctantly again. Lin Yan's gentle and pleasant voice did not sound again. She and Ji Wujiang had passed the final test, so she also left. Meng Qi reached out and touched her glabella. She secretly split a trace of her divine sense into her spiritual sea. After forming her core, her spiritual sea had become much wider. Originally, there was only a white inner core floating there. Now there was a bamboo scroll that looked very simple and unadorned. The bamboo slip was floating next to the white inner core. Wisps of spiritual energy from the inner core first passed through the bamboo slip and slowly poured into the spiritual sea below. Meng Qi was surprised to find that her spiritual energy seemed to have become more condensed. The spiritual energy of a golden core cultivator was originally as thin as mist. She had just formed her core and was the lowest realm of golden core cultivators. Logically speaking, the spiritual energy in her spiritual sea should look thin and ethereal. But now, when the spiritual energy in her spiritual sea flowed gently, the color was even thicker. Meng Qi thoughtfully examined the bamboo slip. Her divine sense carefully approached the bamboo slip. A soft white light lit up on the bamboo slip, and the words recorded inside slowly appeared. Elder Lin Yan. Meng Qi quickly skimmed through the contents recorded on the bamboo slip. Her heart warmed, and her eyes became slightly hot. Elder Lin Yan was a true genius medical xiu, and he was broad-minded. Meng Qi asked herself, even if her cultivation could match the others one day, she probably wouldn't be as broad-minded as the other. Meng Qi. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang called her several times before Meng Qi suddenly came back to her senses. She hurriedly retracted her divine sense and turned to look at the other. What? Ji Wujiang raised an eyebrow. Which way do we go? I don't know either. Mengqi looked around. The scenery in all directions looked the same, and no one looked like an exit. The east, she said and walked towards the east. The east belongs to the wood element, and it's where life is. Ji Wujiang helplessly followed. Mengqi, he looked at the green-robed girl beside him, whose expression had calmed down and suddenly grinned. There's nothing to do. Who's Lin Yan? Elder Lin Yan. Mengqi slightly narrowed her eyes. She had finally calmed down a bit, but now she started to scratch her head like a kitten again. I've only seen her deeds in books, Mengqi said as she walked. She was a famous genius cultivator among us medical Xiu tens of thousands of years ago. Not only was she extremely talented in medical skills, but she was also very talented in cultivation. She was also a rare highly skilled doctor who entered the profound realm. The title of medical Xiu is really interesting. She's already in the profound realm, but she's still just a highly skilled doctor. Ji Wujiang asked. And then? Mengqi glared at him and continued. Elder Lin Yan was already a highly skilled doctor in the profound realm when she was in the Dongjin stage. Not only that, she quickly became a Mahayana cultivator. So according to the records in the books, she's the most promising powerhouse to become a heavenly doctor. Heavenly doctor? Hearing this, even Ji Wujiang's expression became solemn. Above the 9th rank of medical Xiu were the heaven, earth and profound realms. It was the same for magic Xiu, sword Xiu, and formation Xiu. To be able to enter the profound realm was already a very amazing genius. Breaking through to the next level was harder than ascending to heaven. Even in the ancient times when geniuses were everywhere, those who could enter the profound realm, whether it was magic Xiu, sword Xiu, formation Xiu, or medical Xiu, were all worthy of being almighty. They were top-notch powerhouses that cultivators would respectfully greet when they met, regardless of which path they cultivated. What's more, she was a cultivator who had the potential to enter the heaven realm. In the year that Elder Lin Yan entered the Mahayana stage, demonic Xiu invaded, and demonic qi raged. The 6 cities and 8 towns in the southern border were shrouded in demonic qi, and countless poisonous demonic insects and monsters came out of their nests. Countless cultivators and civilians in the 6 cities and 8 towns died. Mengqi sighed softly. She had only seen descriptions of it in books, but when she thought of the tragedy back then, she couldn't bear it. Later, the demonic Xiu were repelled by the cultivators of the 3,000 worlds, but the 6 cities and 8 towns were still slaughtered by the demonic qi and demonic poison. For a time, the people were in a terrible situation and countless people died. Although the medical Xiu went, there were too many poison people, and they couldn't take care of them all. Moreover, the demonic qi didn't disperse, and the demonic poison spread. Not to mention ordinary people who didn't cultivate, even low-level Xiu, such as a Jindan Xiu like me, couldn't last more than a few days. Ji Wujiang seemed to be startled, and then responded in a low voice. Senior Lin Yan had just entered the Mahayana realm. For the sake of the poisoned people in the 6 cities and 8 towns, he forcefully dispersed his cultivation. Mengqi continued. In fact, the book didn't record much about the specific situation, and it was summarized in a few sentences. However, as a medical cultivator, how could Mengqi not have thought of the situation at that time? And then, even someone as picky as Viper Ji Wujiang was at a loss for words. After a moment of silence, he asked again. Mahayana cultivators are already supreme existences in the 3,000 worlds. Her spiritual energy was as vast as the sea. She was an itinerant cultivator, but with the clear wind incantation, which she had painstakingly cultivated for hundreds of years as a profound realm doctor. She nourished heaven and earth with her spiritual energy, and finally resolved the calamity of the 6 cities and 8 towns in the southern border. Mengqi paused for a moment before continuing. However, Senior Lin Yan's cultivation level has fallen from Mahayana to insightful emptiness. It will be difficult for him to advance any further. After she finished speaking, she and Ji Wujiang continued to walk forward side by side. Both of them remained silent. After a long while, Ji Wujiang said, "Cultivation is originally going against the heavens, and there are countless calamities. She is about to reach the peak, and can touch the true supreme realm of the great Tao. However, for the sake of others who are unrelated to her, She forcefully went against the heavens. Ji Wujiang's chest heaved up and down heavily. I'm far from being an ancient almighty. Ming Qi couldn't help but glance at him from the corner of her eyes. It was really not easy to make Ji Wujiang say something like that. Ji Wujiang felt Ming Qi's gaze and snorted again. You medical cultivators, if those old guys now have a little bit of the demeanor and breadth of mind of the ancient almighty, they wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Originally, he hadn't felt comfortable just now, so he deliberately asked Ming Qi. He wanted to see her vexed and regretful expression. He didn't expect that even he would be convinced by this senior Lin Yan. Ming Qi couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. This was normal Ji Wujiang. She looked in front. There seems to be an apricot forest. Ji Wujiang finished her sentence. Let's go quickly. As Ming Qi spoke, she quickly walked towards the apricot forest. They walked very quickly, and in less than half an hour, they arrived in front of the apricot forest. Ming Qi only saw it clearly when they walked to the apricot forest. Although it was called a forest, there were actually only 4 huge apricot trees. The apricot trees had probably lived for tens of thousands of years. Their branches covered the sky, and each tree was a small forest. Countless green apricots hung densely on the trees. Although they weren't ripe yet, they all looked lustrous and cute. One could tell at a glance that they were extraordinary. Ji Wujiang's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't pay much attention to those green apricots. His gaze landed between the 4 apricot trees and slowly moved along the tree roots. Could this be? Not only him, but the little white tiger, Yin Qingyan, also raised its head. A glimmer of light flashed across its azure blue eyes. This was the array core of the competition's barrier. He glanced coldly to the side. It seemed that Ji Wujiang had also noticed it. In his eyes, this fellow was originally ordinary. He only knew some fancy Dharma arrays and wasn't worth mentioning. However, the last move he showed in the sea of demonic aura looked quite interesting. Others might not recognize it, but Yin Qingyan knew very well that Ji Wujiang's last summon was the heavenly demon phoenix. A hint of excitement flashed across Ji Wujiang's eyes. He took a step forward, wanting to study this array core. If there was a chance, he even wanted to try to break the array. Even he found this competition's barrier interesting. He had just taken a step forward when he remembered something, and turned back to look at Ming Qi. Do you want to pick the apricots? Ji Wujiang asked. Ming Qi shook his head. These apricots aren't ripe yet. They can't be picked. Let's go. There was a small path between the 4 apricot trees. The path in front of them disappeared into a white fog, and it seemed to have no end. Ming Qi guessed that this should be connected to the apricot forest. If they walked out of here, they would be able to leave the competition's barrier. Ming Qi. Ji Wujiang followed her for 2 steps and suddenly said in a hoarse voice, "This is the array core of the competition's barrier. What do you want to do?" Ming Qi suddenly became vigilant. She turned her head and stared at Ji Wujiang with a pair of clear black and white eyes. Should we give it a try? No. Ming Qi denied without hesitation. If we break the array, what about Senior Lin Yan's last will? But, no buts. With a soft swish, Ming Qi held a silver medicine knife in her hand, and held it horizontally in front of her chest. Senior Lin Yan stayed here to wait for a successor to pass on her lifelong knowledge. She didn't do it for herself, but for the never-ending path of medicine. Her expression was incomparably firm as she looked at Ji Wujiang with an incomparably determined gaze. She hasn't arrived yet. If you want to destroy it, I will stop you with all my might. I won't stop until I die. As Ming Qi spoke, her other hand was already holding a handful of Xian spirit stones. Forget it. Ji Wujiang waved his hand. I'm scared of you. You have a lot of spirit stones. You're good. Fine, I won't touch you. As he spoke, as if afraid that he would regret it, he strode towards the end of the path. Let's go. We've been here for too long. It's time to leave. Ming Qi also snorted. She still stared at Ji Wujiang warily, and didn't even put away the Xian spirit stones. In order to pass the test and leave here in the competition's barrier, they did fight side by side as if they were partners. However, Ming Qi herself knew how painful it would be if she couldn't study something she was particularly interested in. Arrays were probably to Ji Wujiang what medicine was to her. Meng Qi walked forward along the path while staring warily at Ji Wujiang's tall back, until he really walked past the 4 apricot trees without stopping and didn't even look sideways. Only then did she let out a slight sigh of relief. After passing through the mist, Meng Qi suddenly opened up in front of her. She was still holding the medicine knife and clutching the Xian spirit stones tightly. Ji Wujiang, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped and turned to look at her. Meng Qi took a deep breath. After leaving the competition's barrier, their friendship from fighting side by side in the competition should be written off. Was Ji Wujiang going to cut him into 1,000 pieces as he had said earlier? She couldn't die. It wasn't easy for her to get some news about Yun Qingyan and become a little stronger. She had to live well and go find him. Why are you staring at me like that? Ji Wujiang spread his hands. If we walk out of here, we should be in the apricot forest, he said to Meng Qi. Yes. Meng Qi nodded. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang suddenly took out a bamboo slip from his storage bag. He lowered his head, spirit energy flashed in his hand, and he quickly wrote something on the bamboo slip. Okay. He used spirit energy as his best symbol, and then threw it to Meng Qi. Meng Qi was on guard, but she still grabbed the bamboo slip. Before she had time to check it, she heard Ji Wujiang say, "The old men of the Wind Alliance and the Medical Association probably hate me to the bone. As soon as I go out, they will definitely do their best to kill me." He shrugged and suddenly smiled proudly. Of course, those old men can't hurt me even after 100 years. It's just that they don't even care about you when they go crazy for face. So, Ji Wujiang suddenly took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Meng Qi. He ignored the medicine knife shining with cold light in his opponent's hand. Ji Wujiang stretched out his hand, clenched his fist, spread his arm, and gently pressed it on Meng Qi's back. Suddenly, he hugged her tightly. Meng Qi. She was completely caught off guard, and the tip of her nose bumped into Ji Wujiang's shoulder. At the tip of her nose, she could smell the other party's cold aura, which seemed to carry some killing intent and the smell of blood. In front of her was Ji Wujiang's black robe. Meng Qi was stunned, but her mind was blank. It wasn't that she had never seen the bodies of young male cultivators, but she had never been so close to them. Ji Wujiang quickly let go of her. Meng Qi, there are too many people waiting to kill me outside. I don't think I can be on the list today. Go, I don't know if Lin Yan's words are useful. After all, Ji Wujiang paused for a moment before continuing. But you have to be careful. When I'm free, I'll tie you up and force you to acknowledge me as your master. I'm not as easy to talk to as your senior medical cultivators. I'll use all kinds of methods such as swindling, coercion, and bribery. So, Meng Qi came back to her senses and looked up at Ji Wujiang. The black-robed young man stood tall. Probably because they had been together for a few days, Meng Qi looked at the 3 scars on his right face again, and felt that they were not as ferocious and obvious as when they first met. Ji Wujiang's lips curled up, and he smiled proudly. From now on, you can also tell others that you are the disciple of the Ji family's patriarch. Meng Qi subconsciously curled her lips. If Lin Yan was mentioned, more than half of the medical cultivators in the world would kneel. Was Ji Wujiang very powerful? After this, all the major medical cultivator sects in the Trichiliocosm would hate him to the bone. You don't believe me? Ji Wujiang threw a strange black iron token to Meng Qi. If anyone dares to harm you, take it out and show it to them. If you can't scare them away, come to me. Meng Qi. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang raised his eyebrows. I told you, I swindled, coerced, and bribed. I can use all kinds of methods. I won't be so polite to you next time. If you don't want to be forced by me to submit, become stronger. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked out quickly. They were also in the apricot forest. Further ahead was a large expanse of green and vigorous apricot forest. Ji Wujiang's figure disappeared into it, and Meng Qi soon disappeared. She lowered her head and looked at the strange token in her hand. The token was made of black iron, and it seemed to have been there for a long time. There was an ancient Ji character engraved on it. Ji family? Meng Qi was stunned. Why had she never heard of a major sect named Ji in the Trichiliocosm? Or was it a hidden sect or family? Meng Qi put the token into her storage bag. Take it out to scare people? There was no need for that. With Ji Wujiang's personality, he was a proud and poisonous snake who looked down on everyone in the world. If he took it out, it would attract a large number of his enemies. Mengqi believed him. She put away the black spirit stones in her hand and looked at the bamboo scroll Ji Wujiang threw to her. Mengqi sent a trace of spiritual energy in, and her expression suddenly became a little strange. The bamboo scroll clearly wrote, "Today I owe Mengqi 1,000 black spirit stones and a medicine refining cauldron." Ji Wujiang. Mengqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ji Wujiang had set something in the barrier of the competition. But at that time, the two of them were fighting side by side. They were partners and were working hard for the same goal. Without Ji Wujiang, she might have fallen under the soaring snake sect master's palm. She might not even have passed the first round now. Ji Wujiang and Lu Qingran were close. If Mengqi really wanted to save him in the outside world, she would definitely charge him a lot of spirit stones. But in the barrier of the competition, she really didn't think about it. Mengqi looked up ahead. The wind blew through the apricot forest, and the leaves rustled. Ji Wujiang had already gone far away. Perhaps it was really as he said. Countless sects were waiting to kill him to vent their anger. But for some reason, Mengqi also believed that he was not afraid of them at all. Just like how he dared to come to the Medical Cultivation Dharma Conference and disturb the entire conference, Ji Wujiang should be able to escape successfully. Mengqi put away the bamboo scroll, pulled herself together, and strode out of the apricot forest. She wondered how her good friend was doing now. Si Kongxing must be very worried about her, and whether Xue Jinwen had been cured. There was also Su Junmo. Although the talkative fox was usually long-winded, he should still be worried about her being pulled into the barrier. Mengqi couldn't help but raise her eyebrows when she thought of this group of friends. She quickened her pace and walked out of the apricot forest. She didn't know how long she had been in the barrier of the competition. The last illusion array made her a little confused. But she finally came out. Mengqi. Mengqi had just stepped out of the apricot forest when a scream exploded in her ears. Her vision blurred, and the bright red-robed girl Si Kongxing had already pounced on her and hugged her tightly. Mengqi. Ooh. Si Kongxing rubbed her head on her shoulder. You're finally out. You don't know you really scared us to death just now. Xing Mengqi smiled sweetly and patted her friend's back. It's okay, I'm out now, aren't I? Mengqi. Si Kongxing let go of Mengqi and grabbed her arm with both hands. She looked her up and down for a long time, and seemed to finally be relieved. I was really worried about you. Her eyes were red and she sobbed. We saw you almost get killed by that black wave. It really scared us to death. Huh. Mengqi felt that something was wrong. You said you saw me? Yes. Si Kongxing nodded desperately. We all saw you. You were trapped on the cliff with that Ji Wujiang. You were almost hurt by the huge wave when you tried to save him. Many people were worried about you, and everyone was anxiously trying to find a way. We almost had to risk our lives. She curled her lips. Although I don't know who to fight with. Mengqi was baffled when she heard that. She looked over Si Kongxing's shoulder and looked behind her. In the apricot forest, Ji Wujiang's figure was long gone. Behind Si Kongxing, not only was Su Junmo there, but Xue Jinwen was also standing beside her with a smile. Sister Xue. Mengqi looked at her. I'm fine now. Xue Jinwen smiled. I can't be any better now. That's good. Mengqi nodded. She didn't know that Xue Jinwen's good had a deeper meaning besides the fact that the poison in her body had been cured. Besides Xue Jinwen, Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma, who hadn't seen each other for a long time, stood side by side. Mengqi couldn't help but blink. The two of them were here too. Then there was the pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion, Pei Mufeng. Pei Mufeng still had that cold expression on his face. However, when he met Mengqi's gaze, he nodded slightly at her. Pavilion Master Pei. Mengqi also nodded at him as a greeting. Behind these people was Xue Qingxian. Mengqi was stunned for a moment before she looked back. Only then did she realize that the apricot forest was completely silent. Almost all the medical cultivators from the Four Realms, those whom she didn't know and had never spoken to before, were all looking at her quietly. Even the sect masters and elders of the major medical cultivation sects on the 12 Peaks, and the elders of the Medical Cultivation Dharma Assembly Alliance were looking at her. At this moment, their gazes all fell on Meng Qi. Meng Qi. What exactly happened? Chapter 94. In the apricot forest, only the sound of the wind rustling the leaves could be heard. The tall and verdant apricot trees rustled, and the branches swayed in the wind, as if people were dancing happily. What happened? Meng Qi was speechless. She looked around and finally fixed her gaze on Xing's face. Did she just say that they all saw it? So, what exactly did they see? Before Xing could explain, in the middle of the 12 Peaks, the elder of the Medical Cultivation Conference Union suddenly rushed towards Meng Qi. He quickly landed in front of her and said with a smile, "Little friend Meng Qi has returned safely after breaking the array. Everyone must be full of questions." He paused and said, "But what she needs most now is rest." The elder looked at Meng Qi with a kind smile. "Little friend, you don't have to worry. It's not too late to talk about everything after you've rested." "Thank you, elder." Meng Qi bowed to him. "Go." The elder nodded at her with a smile. "Little friend and that Ji Wujiang, you two managed to break through the barrier on the 12th day. Us old men have never heard of such a thing, so we still have many questions to ask little friend." But the elder looked around with a warning look in his eyes. Before little friend Meng Qi has rested, no one is allowed to disturb her. "Thank you, elder." Meng Qi bowed to him again. She actually felt that it was okay. However, Meng Qi looked at the crowd around her and the countless pairs of eyes that were looking at her. Forget it, she should leave first. "Meng Qi, you really need to rest well." Xing did not allow her to explain. He took her arm affectionately and led her to the entrance of the apricot forest. "You've been in there for more than 10 days. I was so worried. Fortunately, you're fine," he muttered as he walked out with Meng Qi. There were many medical cultivators gathered in the apricot forest. However, when Meng Qi and Xing walked towards them, those people spontaneously made way for her to leave smoothly. Fellow Taoist Meng Qi, standing at the front, the first medical cultivator who took the initiative to step aside, saluted Meng Qi. Meng Qi quickly returned the greeting. She was a little surprised. There were too many cultivators who came to participate in the Medical Cultivators Assembly, and almost all of them were above the Jindan stage. It could be said that they included the elites of the medical cultivators in the 3,000 worlds and 4 realms. A small cultivator like Meng Qi, who had just formed his gold core, should be nothing in the eyes of these people. But as she walked towards the entrance of the apricot forest, everywhere she passed, the Xiuzha all took the initiative to politely greet her. Meng Qi returned their greetings one by one. She was still surprised until she walked out of the crowd. "Meng Qi?" Xing saw her stop and asked, "What's wrong?" "No." Meng Qi shook her head and smiled at her. "So it's only been 12 days. It actually feels like a lifetime has passed." "Of course." Xing held her arm. She was tall, a little taller than Meng Qi, but she still forced her head to rub against her shoulder and said in a small voice, "Days pass like years." "No. Days pass like years. We're super anxious from waiting." "Meng Qi." Before Meng Qi could speak, Chu Tianfeng's voice called out to her from behind. This young palace master of Burning Sky Palace, who had been separated for a month, didn't wait for her to turn around, and already strode to Meng Qi's side. "Let's go back to the inn first." As his voice fell, Qin Xiuma had already walked to the other side of Meng Qi. Xue Jinwen and Su Junmo were a few steps behind, walking side by side. She followed with a smile, not in a hurry to talk to Meng Qi. "You're not going back to the Xue family?" Su Junmo asked. "I'm not going back." Xue Jinwen reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, smiling leisurely. "When I attacked with you guys earlier, I made up my mind to never go back again." Su Junmo didn't say anything. Xue Jinwen didn't seem to intend to explain anything. She looked at Xing, who was still muttering something to Meng Qi, and her eyes moved, the smile in her eyes growing. Xing was bright and generous, her red clothes were like fire, and she was also as passionate as fire. Meng Qi was cold and calm, his green robes were faint, And he was also like pine and bamboo. These two could actually become good friends, probably because they lived so freely and contentedly, never turning back once they set their minds on something. How nice! The group quickly returned to Rosy Lane, where Mengqi and the others had previously stayed. After Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma arrived, they lived in the courtyard next to Mengqi's. At this time, 6 young people from different places, including Xue Jinwen, gathered in the courtyard where Mengqi lived. Under a big tree in the courtyard, Mengqi and Si Kongxing sat on stone benches. Xue Jinwen sat opposite her. Su Junmo and the other 2 male cultivators were all standing. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma had a tacit understanding during this period of time, and the 2 of them stood side by side on the trunk of the big tree. Su Junmo stood behind Si Kongxing, wanting to say something several times, but hesitated several times. In fact, he was most curious about Ji Wujiang, but after thinking about it, he wasn't in a hurry. He just let Si Kongxing chatter about what happened in the past 12 days. Si Kongxing only said one sentence at the beginning, and finally said that everyone rushed to the apricot forest after hearing the news. Mengqi, there was a rumor in the Four Realms that in the decennial training for medical cultivators, a Foundation establishment medical cultivator, and a mysterious black-robed man led a group of Dharma cultivators and sword cultivators to directly eliminate the spirit-severing cultivators in the second round. The leader of the Soaring Snake sect? Mengqi was stunned. She didn't expect this. Yes. Si Kongxing slammed the table. It's him. Wait. Mengqi was a little confused. Cultivators from the Four Realms? Yes. Si Kongxing widened her eyes and turned to Su Junmo. You tell me this part. Su Junmo. He sighed helplessly and explained. Every 10 years, the Dharma cultivator and sword cultivator sects of the Four Realms will receive a large-scale training mission from the sect, which is to assist the medical cultivators in defending the city during the second stage of the grand competition. I see. Mengqi's heart skipped a beat. So those cultivators who came to help us were all real cultivators from the 3 realms? Yes, Su Junmo nodded. He vaguely felt that this matter shouldn't be so simple. Who was so generous to use the grand competition of medical cultivators to connect all the major sects in the 3 realms and the 4 realms together? Then are they okay? Mengqi suddenly stood up and asked worriedly. At that time, she thought that these people were just like the small shadows summoned by Ji Wujiang's 100 Ghost 100 Charm array. They were just array spirits summoned by the grand competition's barrier. However, the array was very strong, so they looked no different from real cultivators. Don't worry. Su Junmo took a deep look at Mengqi. They're fine. That's good. Mengqi heaved a sigh of relief. After these people left the trial's barrier, they reported to their respective sects about what they encountered in the barrier. Su Junmo said, assisting medical cultivators in completing the trial has always been a relatively easy large-scale training for these Dharma cultivator and sword cultivator sect disciples. After all, there are so many medical cultivators around, and they're just helping to defend the city. In their words, it's not much different from a vacation. Si Kongxing couldn't help but laugh. Mengqi smiled. I'm really sorry for letting them down this time. It's more than sorry. Su Junmo spoke for a while and put aside his doubts. His talkative fox majesty reappeared. I received news that these sword cultivators and Dharma cultivators were scared out of their wits. They said that they've never seen such fierce medical cultivators. The 2 of them joined forces and led them to destroy the entire Soaring Snake sect. Their attacking methods were also eye-opening. It looked like a formation, but when have they ever seen a formation kill an enemy? Hence, very soon, the news spread throughout the sects of the 4 realms. Some of the sects in the east that are close to Descending Star City directly came to ask about the situation. Su Junmo raised his chin towards Chu Tianxing and Qin Tianxing. The young palace master of the Burning Sky Palace is probably also here to ask about the situation. Stop trying to sow discord. Chu Tianfeng almost jumped up. I left the Burning Sky City a long time ago. I came to Descending Star City with the medical cultivators in my sect to participate in this conference. He paused and muttered in a lower voice. Father did send me a message, but I don't intend to tell them about Mengqi. Is that so? Qin Xiaoma crossed his arms in front of his chest and said lazily, "Your father came to ask you personally, and you didn't say anything." "No." Chu Tianfeng's face turned red. He said resolutely, "I won't say anything even if I die." Qin Xiaoma laughed softly, and did not say anything else. He was betrayed by his close friend in the sect. He could not return to the sect. He was alone and could make his own decisions. Chu Tianfeng was different from him. Qin Xiaoma could guess what Su Zhenmo meant the moment he opened his mouth. The two of them echoed each other and directly asked Chu Tianfeng to make a promise. Su Zhenmo continued. Anyway, Ji Wujiong caused such a huge ruckus previously. This year's conference was already a little weird. Everyone was a little distracted. With the involvement of these sects, the entire descending star city is bustling with people, and it's very lively. Yes. Si Kongxing nodded and continued. The Medical Cultivators Conference Alliance and the Wind Alliance insisted that the barrier of the grand competition can only be opened once every 10 years. Unless you and Ji Wujiong break out of the barrier, they can't do anything about it. We originally wanted to join forces with these people who came to investigate and force the Wind Alliance to give in. She got angry at the mention of this. Mengqi, those old men are really bad. They won't give in even if they die. Su Zhenmo said that they definitely have some secrets and are not willing to tell us. However, even if we join forces with those people, we are still weak and can't force them to speak. Xue Jinwen smiled slightly. She was a member of the Xue family, and the daughter of the current head of the Xue family. Regardless of whether she was favored at home, she was still the third daughter of the Xue family in the eyes of others. These people clearly knew that she definitely knew some secrets. However, as if they had a tacit understanding, they did not ask her a single question from beginning to end. Just like now, Mengqi also nodded after hearing Si Kongxing's words. He had no intention of inquiring her at all. How nice. Xue Jinwen sat there quietly. The feeling of being respected and protected as a friend was really nice. What happened after that? Mengqi asked. After that, you and Ji Wujiong finally broke out of the array. Si Kongxing said excitedly. We all saw everything that happened between you and Ji Wujiong in the trial barrier. Mengqi, you are really amazing. Ha. Mengqi blinked. Everything that happened between me and Ji Wujiong? Yes. When Si Kongxing mentioned this matter, he became excited. You don't know, but the sky in the apricot forest can turn into a huge mirror. We can see every move you and Ji Wujiong made in the trial barrier. Mengqi. Every move? No way. Mengqi's face suddenly turned red. Although she was magnanimous and did not feel that there was anything that she should not be seen in public. However, when she thought about how she interacted with Yin Qingyan in the illusion array, even this was seen? Then wouldn't her intentions towards Yin Qingyan be known to everyone? Mengqi made a sound, and her cheeks instantly turned red. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. So many people actually saw through that she wanted to be Yin Qingyan's disciple, but she was not fated to be. It was really Mengqi? Si Kongxing was about to continue speaking when he suddenly saw Mengqi's expression. She was stunned. Did she say something wrong? No, nothing. Mengqi stammered. Si Kongxing did not believe it. Her face was already so red. How could it be nothing? She turned to look at Su Zhenmo and the others in confusion. Mengqi, what's wrong? It's really nothing. Mengqi mumbled. Forget it. So be it. Yin Qingyan was strong, gentle, and patiently guided her. She never laughed at her whimsical and naive thoughts. She did not believe that other people would not be moved and have the same thoughts as her when they met a strong person like Yin Qingyan. Mengqi. This time, even Su Zhenmo looked at Mengqi suspiciously. Don't tell me you really. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiaoma looked at each other, and saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. They had seen how Mengqi and Ji Wujiong interacted in the sea of demonic aura. One would never live alone, and would not abandon the other. The other was strong and arrogant, but he was obviously protective of Mengqi. Could it be that the two of them really fought side by side in this trial, spent all day and night together, and even went through life and death together? So what happened? Even the little white tiger in the beast house in her storage bag narrowed its eyes slightly. Mengqi actually blushed? Only Xue Jinwen looked at Mengqi with a smile. In her opinion, Meng Qi was someone who had his own ideas and lived a carefree and unrestrained life. Even if Ji Wujiang was an arrogant person who dared to brazenly come to their door and challenge the Medical Cultivation Conference Union alone, so what? It was fine as long as Meng Qi liked it. No. Meng Qi's cheeks were still red. He shook his head and repeated, "I'm fine." This time, even Si Gongxing felt that something was wrong with Meng Qi. However, she did not continue asking. Instead, she said, "Later, we saw you save Ji Wujiang and he destroyed the sea of demonic aura. Then that very powerful Senior Lin Yan said he wanted to take you as his disciple, but you rejected him." Yes. Meng Qi recalled this matter. Although he did not regret it, he still felt pain in his heart. Oh right. Si Gongxing remembered. Before Ji Wujiang woke up, the medical cultivators in the apricot forest thought that something would happen to you. They were very anxious and many of them were thinking of ways to save you. Many of them wanted to teach you protection spells. They said that as long as you could keep your breath intact, they would use the power of the entire sect to save you. Yes. Meng Qi was stunned. A warm feeling flowed through his heart. Although she did not see it, she could imagine the scene from Si Gongxing's quick description of the situation. She knew that Ji Wujiang's words could not be trusted. Most medical cultivators were kind and gentle. They would never leave someone in the lurch. Just like Senior Lin Yan. Just like Uncle Master Yan Mingfeng. Just like these unfamiliar medical cultivators who might not have known her at all in the past, and would never have the slightest interaction with her in the future. Everyone was really worried at that time. Even Su Junmo could not help but help. "And your two friends?" Si Gongxing said as he raised his chin at Chu Tianfeng and the others. "Oh, and Sister Shui. Pavilion Master Pei from the Falling Star Pavilion. They all wanted to help you." Xing. Shui Jinwen smiled. "You were the first to rush up. Hey. I was so scared that I lost my mind." Si Gongxing shook his head and continued. Then Ji Wujiang woke up. "You all passed the test successfully." "Yes." Meng Qi nodded. The heat on her face finally subsided a little. She quietly looked at the people sitting or standing in the courtyard. Seeing that no one had any intention of mentioning Yun Qingyan, Meng Qi secretly sighed in relief. She spread her arms and reached out to hug Si Gongxing. "Thank you, Xing, and thank you all." Although they had just gone through 12 days of the trial, they had gone through fire and water several times. Meng Qi's heart was warm, and she did not feel tired at all. "Oh right." Si Gongxing pulled away from her. "Meng Qi, you formed your gold core?" "Yes." Meng Qi nodded and reached out to wipe her sweat. "It's really not easy. I thought it would take at least another year," she said. "I won't be a burden to you all in the future." Pa. Si Gongxing paused. "What kind of thinking is this? What do you mean by being a burden?" "Meng Qi, you're super powerful, okay? Let me tell you, those medical cultivators in the apricot forest were completely shocked by you. Those Wind Alliance and the 4 great families did not dare to say anything." "It's because of Senior Lin Yan, right?" Meng Qi thought for a moment and said. Even if she formed her gold core, she was only a golden core cultivator. Her ability to protect herself was not enough in the 3,000 worlds. She needed to work harder. "Meng Qi." Qin Xioma spoke. "What happened after that?" "After Lin Yan said you could consider yourself her friend, we couldn't see it anymore. Ji Wujiang and I went east, found the exit, and left the barrier." Meng Qi looked at him and asked, "Nascent soul?" "Yes." Qin Xioma nodded slightly. Meng Qi looked at his pitch-black eyes that were as deep as the night sky. She remembered that after Qin Xioma recovered from his internal injuries in her previous life, he began to cultivate like a madman. The name Little Demon Lord quickly became known to the cultivators in the 3,000 worlds. Later, he returned to the southern land alone with a sword. He killed his friends, exterminated traitors, swept through the sects, and brazenly seized the throne. Shouldn't Qin Xioma be cultivating like crazy now? Why did he come to Descending Star City to join in the fun? Si Gongxing said that he also helped to save her, so Meng Qi owed him a favor. She hesitated for a moment. She was not short of money now, should she, Meng Qi? Chu Tianfeng's focus was a little strange. You said that Ji Wujiong also owes you spirit stones? Meng Qi was stunned when she heard this. She didn't expect that they would really watch every move, no matter how big or small. Meng Qi's face was a little hot again. Yes. She was not good at lying, and there was no point in lying in front of so many people. How many spirit stones does he owe you? Chu Tianfeng asked. Among these people, only Qin Xiaoma could roughly guess the thoughts of this proud young palace master of Burning Sky Palace. He chuckled and resumed his lazy look of watching the fun. Meng Qi thought for a moment, then said with a serious expression, "The situation was critical at that time, so I was just joking with Ji Wujiong." She explained to Chu Tianfeng and the others in a serious tone. You also saw that Ji Wujiong and I had been fighting side by side in the barrier of the tournament. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid that I would still be stuck in the first stage, and I wouldn't be able to pass the second stage no matter what. So it was just a joke to wake him up. Don't take it seriously. We already know that. Chu Tianfeng interrupted her. So how many spirit stones does he owe you? He guessed that Meng Qi must have saved Ji Wujiong, and then collected his spirit stones. Although Meng Qi said that they fought side by side and didn't count, he was very eager to know the specific amount. Qin Xiaomo raised the corner of his lips. It should be dozens of 8th grade spirit stones. Before Ji Wujiong left, he gave me an IOU of 1,000 spirit stones, Meng Qi said. Chu Tianfeng. Qin Xiaoma. When I see him again, I'll return it to him, Meng Qi said again. After she finished speaking, she moved her arms and stretched. I think I still need to sleep. And hurry and go to sleep, Si Gongxing said hurriedly. She jumped up and pushed Meng Qi into the room. We'll talk about other things after you wake up, hurry and go. Okay. Meng Qi turned and smiled at everyone. Thank you for your concern, everyone. I'll go and rest first. She closed the door and moved her shoulders again, then took out the beast house from her storage bag. Little Qi. The little white tiger was still lying lazily on the bed in the beast house. Meng Qi reached out and rubbed its furry little head, a trace of confusion flashing across her eyes. Your injury. Her fingertips glowed, and she pressed them gently on the little white tiger's forehead. Meng Qi closed her eyes and frowned slightly. Why did little Qi look more serious than before? Ah, she suddenly exclaimed softly and withdrew the spirit energy that she had sent into the little white tiger's body. Meng Qi stumbled back 2 steps and stared at the little white tiger in a daze. What was that just now? She shook her head. Just now, she seemed to have been bitten by another strong spirit energy. Although it didn't hurt, she was caught off guard and was forced out of little Qi's body by the other party. What was that? Meng Qi stood there in a daze for a moment before slowly walking to the bed. The little white tiger closed its eyes and rested its chin on its paws, not looking at her anymore. Are you angry? Even though the other party's furry little face didn't show any expression, Meng Qi still felt that she could vaguely sense that the little white tiger was angry? Meng Qi scratched her head. I'm very sorry for this period of time. I had no choice but to let you be trapped in the beast house for so long. Tu Xiaoshuo. She had been with Ji Wujiong all the time in the barrier of the competition, so she really couldn't get little Qi out. Fortunately, after she earned enough spirit stones, she bought a better beast house for little Qi. Even if it stayed in the storage bag for a month, it wouldn't be a problem. Meng Qi's hand slowly moved to little Qi's head. She slowly put it down and gently rubbed it. It won't happen again. She thought for a moment and said, besides passing the barrier test, I also met a very, very powerful senior this time. Senior again? Ha! How disobedient. Although that was what the little white tiger thought, Yin Qingyan still opened its eyes and looked at Meng Qi. She's a medical cultivator. She was famous in the 3 realms 10,000 years ago. Not only is she very nice and very kind, but her medical skills are also very strong. Moreover, she's really... Meng Qi's eyes sparkled as she talked about Lin Yan. Her eyes were brighter than the stars in the night sky. Very, very good. She mumbled. It was as if at this time, there were thousands of words that could not be used to describe her. All that was left was these few simple and plain words. Meng Qi was in a daze again. She stared into the distance for a long time before continuing. She passed me the records of what she had seen and heard in her lifetime of medical practice. My medical skills are not good enough now, so I can only read the first 4 volumes. But little Chi. She reached out and held little Chi's 2 furry paws. Her eyes were clear, and she said excitedly, I think I can find a way to cure you in here. Meng Qi had just finished speaking when 3 soft knocks came from the door. Meng Qi let go of little white tiger's paws and turned to look at the door. She raised her voice and asked, Who is it? Meng Qi. A young man's clear and cold voice came from outside the door. It's me. Pavilion Master Pei? Meng Qi was slightly stunned, but she still went forward to open the door. Little Qi hid it very well. Her friends all knew that she had a white tiger spirit beast. No one had ever thought that she was a sky demon white tiger. Pei Mufeng had always been a gentleman. He stood at Meng Qi's door and did not even look into her room. After Meng Qi opened the door, he quickly looked away and said, I'm here to say goodbye. He paused and said, I should stay for a few more days after you met with such a big change. However, the entrance to the Starfall Sea in the east will disappear soon. The next time it appears will be 3 months later. He paused again and said, I'm going to the Starfall Sea. Take care, Meng Qi. Pei Mufeng seemed to smile, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. I hope that when we meet again, your alcohol tolerance will be better. You can drink to your heart's content and not return until you're drunk. See you in 10 years, Meng Qi. After he finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the courtyard with large strides. Chapter 95. Wait! Meng Qi hurriedly chased after him. Pei Mufeng stopped and turned to look at Meng Qi quietly. When are we leaving? Meng Qi asked. Tomorrow. Pei Mufeng said. He looked at Meng Qi, paused and added, The entrance to the Starfall Sea will disappear tomorrow night. Meng Qi quickly calculated in her mind. Okay, are you going back to the sect? Yes. Pei Mufeng said. Do you have something to do? Can you wait for me to arrive tomorrow before leaving? Meng Qi said again. Okay. She didn't say why, and Pei Mufeng didn't ask. He just looked at Meng Qi deeply and nodded. I'll wait for you at the door. Meng Qi nodded, and she quickly calculated in her mind. Pei Mufeng would definitely go to the Starfall Sea. Meng Qi knew this. Even if he didn't promise to the Medical Cultivators Conference this time, he would still go to the Starfall Sea to practice swordsmanship. Meng Qi met him in her previous life at the edge of the Starfall Sea. At that time, Pei Mufeng was seriously injured, and said that he had been practicing swordsmanship in the Starfall Sea, and was injured by the strange beasts inside. She pondered as she turned to go back to her room. She originally planned to have a good rest, but it seemed that she wouldn't be able to sleep. Meng Qi quickly stuffed little Qi into the beast house. Ignoring the strange look in the other party's eyes, she stuffed the beast house back into the storage bag, and turned to walk out of the inn quickly. Meng Qi. Before she reached the entrance of Rosy Lane, Xue Jinwen's gentle voice came from behind her. Sister Xue? Meng Qi turned around and saw Xue Jinwen sitting alone in the lobby of Rosy Lane. There were a few simple dishes on the table in front of her. In addition, there was a green wine pot. Xue Jinwen filled the cup in front of her with wine and asked Meng Qi, Why aren't you resting? Where are we going? Oh, Meng Qi explained. I'm going to buy something. Her alchemy cauldron had been damaged during the tournament, so she needed to buy a new one. Also, Meng Qi could replenish the medicinal herbs needed for refining medicine. I'll go with you. Xue Jinwen downed the wine in his glass and stood up with a smile. Meng Qi himself was not a good drinker. He looked at Xue Jinwen with envy, and then stood up without any change in his expression. Let's go. She walked to Meng Qi's side and met her gaze. What's wrong? Xue Jinwen raised her eyebrows and suddenly remembered that she had seen Meng Qi's charmingly naive appearance when he was drunk in the heavens beyond heaven. She couldn't help but smile. It's just an occasional drink. It's nothing good, so you don't have to worry about it. Meng Qi also smiled. She and Xue Jinwen walked out of Rosy Lane side by side. Naturally, Descending Star City also had Immortal Cloud Pavilion. This shop was located in almost all the big and small towns in the 3,000 worlds and 4 realms. Most of the things that cultivators needed could be bought there. Mengqi and Xue Jinwen walked for a long distance, but no one spoke first. Mengqi. In the end, Xue Jinwen spoke first. What do you plan to do next? Pavilion Master Pei is going to the Starfall Sea tomorrow. I want to send him off at Descending Star Pavilion, Mengqi said. I'm afraid that we'll be apart for 10 years. Yes. Xue Jinwen smiled. You have a good relationship with Pavilion Master Pei. Not really. Mengqi looked at her and felt that this sentence was a little strange. We've only met a few times. Pavilion Master Pei is quite nice. Mengqi was not too sure. She had a good relationship with Pei Mufeng in her previous life. Although this genius swordsman was cold and powerful, Mengqi had never seen someone like him who was so persistent in swordsmanship. She and Pei Mufeng could be considered close friends. They could understand each other's persistence and persistence. If she had to rank all the people that Mengqi knew in her previous life, Pei Mufeng would definitely be on her list of friends. Sister Xue, the Xue family is also in Descending Star City. Aren't you going with them? Mengqi did not like to gossip. However, she had a good impression of Xue Jinwen. She was also grateful that she took care of her. The Xue family, the Wind Alliance, her sisters, brothers, and father were all in Descending Star City. She did not seem to have any intention of looking for them. Yes. Xue Jinwen smiled. I won't be going back in the future. As she spoke, she stretched her arms. Her wide sleeves slid down, revealing her fair arms. Xue Jinwen raised her head and looked at the sky. At this moment, the sun was setting in the west. The sunset glow was burning in the horizon. It was almost burning the entire sky. The sky was pure. It was just an ordinary city. It was dinner time, and the smell of food could be heard from the streets. However, Xue Jinwen felt that it was refreshing. Mengqi. Xue Jinwen closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then, she put down her arms and turned to look at Mengqi. Shall we go together in the future? Sure. Mengqi nodded. She did not ask why. Xue Jinwen had her own thoughts and choices. As long as she did not regret it, it was fine. Mengqi. The two of them were silent for a moment. Instead, Xue Jinwen took the initiative to say, I think it's boring to continue staying at home. Father is very good. Brother is also very good. Sister and sister are young and talented medical cultivators. The Xue family and the Wind Alliance are probably the sects that all medical cultivators in the world want to join. Xue Jinwen's lips curled into a smile. Her eyes curved into crescents. But that's not what I want. Oh. Mengqi nodded again. She was also a cultivator who had betrayed her sect. She did not seem to have the right to comment. If she was unhappy, she could just leave. So I want to leave, Xue Jinwen said. Then are you still going to the heavens beyond heaven? Mengqi asked again. Yes. Xue Jinwen smiled and tilted her head slightly to look at Mengqi. I didn't mention it. You said it yourself. Mengqi did not understand. Little Qi. Xue Jinwen leaned closer and whispered in Mengqi's ear. Then, she reached out and ruffled her hair. When Mengqi saw Xue Jinwen in the heavens beyond heaven, this third Miss Xue was originally elegant and charming. Her every move was quite ladylike. This time she seemed a little different. More relaxed? Livelier? Mengqi thought of the name she casually gave in the heavens beyond heaven. In fact, she did not deliberately hide it. In the heavens beyond heaven, she used her appearance. She had only participated in a few auctions and bought things, but there were still very few people who knew Little Qi. The two of them chatted and soon arrived at the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. Mengqi did not have high requirements for alchemy cauldrons. The cauldrons that could be bought at the Cloud Immortal Pavilion were those mass-produced cauldrons of those weapon cultivation sections. There would not be anything too outstanding about them. She now had a lot of spirit stones on her. She chose a 5th realm alchemy cauldron that she could use now, but it only cost 100 8th grade spirit stones. Mengqi took out 10 9th grade spirit stones. She now had a lot of spirit stones. In the barrier of the competition, sometimes when she was anxious, she would throw out a handful of Xian spirit stones. The 8th grade and 9th grade spirit stones were always in her hands, ready to be thrown out at any time. The more she used them, the more she felt that spirit stones were nothing much. At this time, she casually took out 10 ninth-grade spirit stones. Even Xue Jinwen could not help but stare at her for a moment. Even Xue Jinwen, who was born in the Wind Alliance's Xue family and had never been short of money, felt that ninth-grade spirit stones were not a small number. The shop assistant in the Cloud Immortal Pavilion's pharmacy was even more enthusiastic than before. What medicinal herbs do you need? Mengqi, please help me exchange all these ninth-grade spirit stones for medicinal herbs according to the ratio. I want to refine the Dark North pill. As she spoke, she took out 10 ninth-grade spirit stones. Exchange these for medicinal herbs according to the ratio of the 9-yang pill. This time, even the shop assistant in the Cloud Immortal Pavilion was stunned. Okay, he hurriedly responded. Only the medicinal herbs needed for the Dark North pill and the 9-yang pill? Yes. Mengqi nodded. Mengqi, seeing that the shop assistant took the spirit stones to prepare the medicinal herbs, Xue Jinwen gently nudged her arm. You want to refine the Dark North pill and the 9-yang pill? Sell them? To give them to a friend, Mengqi said. Pavilion master pay? Xue Jinwen asked again. Yes. Mengqi turned to look at the pharmacy in the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. Most of the common spirit herbs could be bought here. Of course, there were also many rare spirit herbs and spirit flowers. However, the rarer and more precious treasures could only be found in the heavens beyond heaven. Oh right. Mengqi thought of the heavens beyond heaven and asked Xue Jinwen, Sister Xue, have you been to the heavens beyond heaven before? There's a shop called the Heaven and Earth Book House. Heaven and Earth Book House. Xue Jinwen was stunned. She shook her head in confusion. I've never heard of it, let alone been there. It's in the northwest corner of the heavens beyond Heaven City. There are many books there that span across the 3 realms. The owner of the book house is very nice, but the books there are not for sale. They can only be borrowed, Mengqi said. I've never heard of it. Xue Jinwen shook her head again. Both of them spoke softly. She thought for a while and said, but the heavens beyond Heaven City is quite big. There are many shops that I've never seen before. Xue Jinwen said, next time we go to the heavens beyond heaven, bring me there to take a look. Okay. Mengqi nodded and said, Sister Xue, the books there must be exchanged with spirit points. Sister Xue, is there any way to exchange for spirit points? She had a lot of spirit points now, but compared to the vast sea of books in the Heaven and Earth Book House, it was too insignificant. Mengqi had a lot of spirit stones now. She could even count Xian's spirit stones in the thousands. If she could exchange spirit stones for spirit points, that would be great. Spirit points. Xue Jinwen almost thought that Mengqi had made a mistake. Are you sure you didn't hear wrong? The books there must be borrowed with spirit points. Yes. Mengqi nodded. Spirit points. Xue Jinwen felt a little dizzy. Some of the cultivators who could enter the heavens beyond heaven did not care much about spirit stones. Sometimes, the top sects would trade with each other and would not use spirit stones as currency. However, spirit points, that was the absolute hard currency of the heavens beyond heaven. It was unknown how many large sects had racked their brains for spiritual points, but they could not earn much. For example, Xue Jinwen was an appraiser of medicine in the Xian auction house. Only when she discovered some valuable or unprecedented new medicinal pills, new heavenly materials and earthly treasures, or even new pill recipes, would she be rewarded with a few spiritual points. For example, Xue Jinwen had once recommended Mengqi's North Deep pill to the Xian auction house, and was rewarded with 5 spirit points. However, until now, she only had a little more than 100 spirit points. Mengqi, Xue Jinwen lowered her voice and asked softly, how many spirit points do you need to exchange for a book? 10 spirit points. Mengqi said. 10 spirit points. Xue Jinwen looked at the clear eyes of the green-robed girl in front of her. Her first reaction was to wonder if she had been cheated. However, Xue Jinwen thought about it. Spirit points were not allowed to be traded privately in the heavens beyond heaven. Next time, take me to the Heaven and Earth Book House to take a look. She made up her mind. She must not let Mengqi suffer. Okay. Mengqi agreed. How many books have you exchanged? Xue Jinwen asked again. She quickly estimated that Meng Qi should be the same as her. The spirit points he received for the North Deep pill were at most 10 spirit points. Fortunately, the loss was not great. So many. Meng Qi said. There must be dozens of books. Shui Jinwen. When we go back today, take me to take a look. The more she listened, the more she felt that this shop was a scam. Dozens of books, that meant hundreds of spirit points. How could Meng Qi have them? Although she did not know who opened this Heaven and Earth book house, there must be something strange. Meng Qi, don't spend spirit points casually. Shui Jinwen took a deep breath and said in a low voice, they are very useful. You can exchange them for some rare things in the heavens beyond heaven, or even opportunities. For example? Meng Qi asked with interest. She looked at the shop assistant who was still busy preparing medicine in the pharmacy. Did it take so long? For example, even if you are not invited, you can use spirit points to exchange for the opportunity to participate in the auction at the Heavenly Auction House. Shui Jinwen said in a low voice. I have been there before, Meng Qi said. Shui Jinwen. The last time I went to bid for Jiu, I went to the Heavenly Auction House. Meng Qi smiled at her and explained. Okay. Shui Jinwen felt a little dizzy again. She felt that she could not react. She should not have drunk. Actually, her alcohol tolerance was not very good. She only drank by herself in the lobby of Rosie Lane, because she was a little disappointed. Shui Jinwen shook her head and said, Then, do you know that there are many hidden paradises in the mountains around the heavens beyond Heaven City? I know. Meng Qi said, at the last auction, there was a token that could be used to enter the mountains and participate in the exploration. Meng Qi smiled embarrassedly. I heard that it was very precious. Those big sects were all in a hurry to get it, so no one bid with me for Jiu. She happily shared her good luck with Shui Jinwen. I only spent a few hundred 8th grade spirit stones to get Jiu. Shui Jinwen. Why did she feel that the heavens beyond heaven that she knew and the one that Meng Qi spoke of were two completely different worlds? Then, Shui Jinwen was stunned for a while. Then, she said in a hoarse voice, Do you know that even if you don't bid for the token that allows people to enter the paradises, as long as you have spiritual points, you can still participate in the exploration? Also, she paused and said slowly in a very low voice, For those sects, a token can allow them to bring 5 people in. However, if you use spiritual points to exchange for the opportunity to participate in the exploration, if the Master of the Heavens beyond heaven sends someone to participate, then this person will be considered one of his people and will be protected by him. Meng Qi was slightly startled and asked, How many spiritual points do you need? Only then can you exchange for this opportunity. It must be a lot. Even borrowing a book required 10 spiritual points. It would be difficult to exchange for such an opportunity, without tens of thousands of spiritual points. Meng Qi had seen it the last time he went there. He had a few thousand spiritual points. He did not know if it had increased during this period. She was not very interested in the paradises. However, the Master of the Heavens beyond heaven would also participate. This sentence immediately attracted her attention. Shui Jinwen said, I'm not sure either, but it should be a lot. If you're curious, the next time I go to the heavens beyond heaven, I can help you ask. There are actually many people in the heavens beyond heaven who know about this, but it is said that until now, no one has been able to save so many spiritual points. So Meng Qi, she said in a deep voice, if the people in the shops in the heavens beyond Heaven City tell you that you have to use spiritual points to exchange for things, don't bother. Save up your spiritual points. They may be more useful in the future. Okay. Meng Qi agreed obediently. Do you know how to check the spiritual points you have? Shui Jinwen asked again. You can see it when you hold the nameplate. Meng Qi said, Sister Shui, have you forgotten that I have already used it to exchange for books in the Heaven and Earth book house? Yes. Shui Jinwen also nodded. How many spiritual points do you have? If it's more than 50, there will be an opportunity that will be very beneficial to you now and in the future. You can spend some spiritual points to exchange for it. I should have a few thousand. Meng Qi was not too sure. The last time I went, I had this many. I don't know if it's more than 10,000 now. Shui Jinwen. Of course, she did not suspect that Meng Qi was lying to her. But this was too fantastical. These were not spiritual points. They were spiritual points. Many sects, including the Shui family, the Wind Alliance, and the large sword and magic sects that dominated the four realms, did not have that many spiritual points even if their disciples worked together. After all, in the heavens beyond heaven, running a shop and maintaining a shop, and the opportunities that she mentioned just now, such as entering the heavenly auction house without an invitation or going to the blessed enclave without a token, all of these required spiritual points. Shui Jinwen took a deep breath and could not help but ask, "Are you sure? Are they spiritual points?" Yes. Meng Qi nodded affirmatively. Shui Jinwen had a feeling that the heavens beyond heaven was a mysterious and powerful place to her, and the sects in the trichiliocosm. But to Meng Qi, it was her home. Fellow Taoists. At this moment, the shop assistant of the pharmacy walked over with 2 small brocade pouches in his hands. He respectfully handed the brocade pouches to Meng Qi. Fellow Taoists, sorry to keep you waiting. The herbs are ready. You can check them. Okay. Meng Qi sent a wisp of spiritual energy into the 2 brocade pouches. So many. This time even she was shocked. Our Cloud Immortal Pavilion has always been fair and honest. The shop assistant proudly straightened his back. Besides, the amount of herbs you want is larger, so there will be some discounts. Thank you. We'll take our leave first. Meng Qi put away the 2 brocade pouches and walked out of the pharmacy with Shui Jinwen. You just gave us 9th grade spirit stones. When the 2 of them left the Cloud Immortal Pavilion, Shui Jinwen reminded her. Have you forgotten? I've gotten used to it recently. Meng Qi was a little absent-minded. More than 2 months ago, she was still a qi refinement cultivator who had to work hard to earn 28th grade spirit stones just to buy a jackdaw grass. Now, she had become a golden core cultivator who could spend 9th grade spirit stones without feeling anything. It really felt like a lifetime had passed. Meng Qi returned to Rosy Lane and locked herself in her room. She bought too many herbs. If she wanted to refine all of them, she would not be able to do it even if she did not sleep for 10 days and 10 nights. Meng Qi put the newly bought medicine refining cauldron on the ground, and then drew the second change of the fire formation that she had learned in the barrier competition. Although this consumed more spirit stones, it was faster to refine medicine. While thinking, she took out a handful of 8th grade spirit stones. Meng Qi looked down at the spirit stones in her hand. After thinking for a while, she inserted them into the fire formation with a snap of her fingers. Pei Mufeng was going to leave tomorrow. She had to hurry. Meng Qi locked herself in her room for a full 16 hours. She was now a 4th grade medical cultivator. The Dark North pill and 9-yang pill that she refined should have been of the 4th realm. In addition, she now had the help of the second change of the fire formation. She spent a lot of spirit stones. However, after 16 hours, Meng Qi obtained a total of 35th realm Dark North pills and 104th realm Dark North pills. YYXS. Lathe 9-yang pill was similar. Each pill was sealed with a spell of the same element. This was a pill that could be auctioned at a sky-high price in the Outland. Meng Qi did not even blink. She packed 10 pills by 10 and put them in porcelain bottles. She took out a pen and made a mark on the porcelain bottles. Then, she put all these porcelain bottles into a brocade pouch. If Meng Qi was still a foundation establishment cultivator, and her medical skills were still 3rd grade, she would not give these medicines to Pei Mufeng. If her cultivation level was too low, it would not be of much use to him. Pei Mufeng was now at the peak of the nascent soul realm. Soon after entering the Fallen Star Sea, he should break through and enter the spirit-severing stage. His sect must have prepared a lot of medicinal pills for him. Pei Mufeng had not been out of the Fallen Star Sea for 10 years. Every time the entrance of the Fallen Star Sea appeared, he could come out to replenish the necessary medicinal pills. With his strength, as long as he did not encounter 2 dangerous beasts, he should not be in too much danger in the Fallen Star Sea. Meng Qi put away the brocade pouch, pushed open the door, and walked out of her room. In the courtyard outside the door, a group of good friends was there. Xikong Xing and Shui Jinwen were sitting at the stone table in the courtyard. The 2 of them had a set of Go in front of them and were playing. Su Junmo and Chu Tianfeng each stood on one side and watched the two of them play Go. Qin Xiaoma leaned against a big tree and seemed to be cultivating with his eyes closed. You finally came out. Chu Tianfeng heard the voice and turned to look at Meng Qi. People from the Medical Guild Alliance and the Wind Alliance came to investigate several times, but we sent them away. Yes. Meng Qi nodded. I'm going to the Fallen Star Pavilion. Huh. Chu Tianfeng raised his eyebrows in surprise. Su Junmo's heart thumped. He did not have time to report to his master about Ji Wujiong. Was Meng Qi going to see Pei Mufeng? I'm going to send Pavilion Master Pei off. Meng Qi said. He's going to the Fallen Star Sea. I'm going too. Si Gongxing jumped up. Is he really going to the Fallen Star Sea for 10 years? Yes. Meng Qi was also a little melancholy. However, she quickly threw this melancholy to the back of her mind. This was Pei Mufeng's own choice. He lived for the sword. Sooner or later, he would go to such a dangerous place to practice his sword. He once told her that the more dangerous the place, the stronger the sword spirit refined. Then I'm going too. Si Gongxing moved closer to Meng Qi. Sai, can't we think of a way to persuade Pavilion Master Pei to ignore those old men from the Medical Guild Alliance? I don't think they're good people. There's no need for them to keep their promise. Pavilion Master Pei will go to the Fallen Star Sea himself even without this incident, Meng Qi said. Why? Amidst Si Gongxing's chatter, the group walked towards the Fallen Star Pavilion. The Fallen Star Pavilion was in the Fallen Star Valley outside the Fallen Star City. The group walked quickly and arrived outside the Fallen Star Valley in a few minutes. The disciples outside the gate were heavily guarded. When they saw Meng Qi and the group, the leading disciple suspiciously stopped them. He was about to interrogate them. My friends. The disciple's gaze suddenly fell on Meng Qi's face. He suddenly realized. Oh, it's Taoist Meng. Please come in. As he spoke, he hurriedly clasped his hands and bowed to Meng Qi. Please follow me. The sect leader has instructed us to invite Taoist Meng to see him directly if he comes. Please. Chapter 96. After the Falling Star Pavilion disciple finished speaking, he turned around and led Meng Qi and the rest into Falling Star Valley. Meng Qi had stayed in Falling Star City for many days, but it was his first time here. As the top sect in the east border, Falling Star Valley was located in a mountain range. There was a straight path paved with blue stone that led from the entrance of the valley to the inside of the valley. There were tall mountains on both sides, and the trees on the mountain walls were lush. It looked rather imposing. After the disciple led the group for a while, and turned a corner, Meng Qi and the rest suddenly felt that their eyes were wide open. The inside of the valley was many times wider than when they stood at the entrance of the valley. A magnificent building was built against the mountain. That was the main hall of the Falling Star Pavilion. There were 7 mountains on both sides, and there were some pavilions and towers on the mountains. Those should be the residences of the Falling Star Pavilion disciples. Half of the mountain was surrounded by clouds, and it looked rather divine. Other than that, there was another path on both sides of the main hall that led to the back of the mountain. As the top sect in the east border, the Falling Star Pavilion disciples naturally had many places to cultivate. Meng Qi had heard Pei Mufeng mention before that there were 2 blessed grotto heavens with rich spirit energy in the back of the Falling Star Pavilion. The treasures in the blessed grotto heavens had been taken away, and there was a spirit vein in each of the grotto heavens with endless spirit energy. It was the most suitable place for cultivation. This was something that Meng Qi's Cool Breeze Valley did not have. It was also one of the reasons why the large sects had so many cultivators coming in. This way, please. The Falling Star Pavilion disciple turned around and said to Meng Qi and the rest. He then led them to a side hall of the main hall. Please wait for a moment. Soon other disciples brought tea and snacks. The disciple poured tea for everyone one by one. The aroma of the tea immediately wafted into their nostrils. It refreshed their hearts and made them forget everything. It smells so good. Si Gongxing picked up the teacup and smelled it. What tea is this? This is our sect's sword tea, the disciple explained with a smile. On the cliff behind the Falling Star Pavilion's mountain, there are a few tea trees that are 5,000 to 6,000 years old. He paused for a moment before continuing. Ever since the generation of our old ancestor, there have been disciples practicing the sword at the back of the mountain. The sword qi ran rampant day and night, but those tea trees stubbornly survived. Not only did it survive, but under the nourishment of the sword qi, the tea leaves also took the shape of small swords. Xing was extremely curious and looked at the teapot in the other party's hand. The disciple smiled and lifted the lid of the teapot in his hand, allowing Xing to see what was inside. As expected, Xing blinked and pulled Meng Qi's arm to show her. Look at these tea leaves. This is the first time I've seen such tea leaves. They look like small swords. Interesting. Not only are the tea leaves shaped like small swords, but they also contain 30% spirit qi and 30% sword qi. If the disciples drank this sword tea, their cultivation speed would be slightly faster. Moreover, the tea was cool and refreshing. Although it tasted a little bitter, the aftertaste was sweet and delicious. Our sword tea is extremely famous in the Four Realms. Do you sell it? Xing took another small sip. Indeed, it tasted slightly bitter, but the aftertaste was sweet. The tea's fragrance lingered, warming her from the tip of her tongue to her chest. There was no doubt that it contained spirit qi. The production of this sword tea is extremely low. It can only be picked once every 10 years, and there are only a dozen jars each time. The Falling Star Pavilion disciple smiled and said, even among the sect's disciples, not all of them can drink it. Only those who have made great contributions or accumulated enough sect contribution points can exchange for it. I see. Xing's disappointment was written all over her face. Her father was a famous tycoon in the demon realm's Heaven Demon Crimson Fox clan. She had never worried about spirit stones. When she saw something she liked, she could not help but want to buy it. However, the sect master has instructed us. The disciple smiled again. Taoist Meng is an honored guest of the sect. We have already prepared some gifts for all of you, including this sword tea. Thank you so much. Xing was elated. She turned to Meng Qi and asked, Meng Qi, did you and Pavilion Master Pei know each other in the past? We've met once before, Yizichen replied. Meng Qi was actually quite surprised. In her previous life, she had a good relationship with Pei Mufeng. When the two of them were together, the feeling of appreciation and care for each other was quite good. However, in this life, if she remembered correctly, the first time she met Pei Mufeng was at Heavens Beyond. He left the Heaven Class auction house early like her, and even invited her to Heavens Beyond for a drink, but she rejected. Then they met again at Descending Star City. The disciple did not seem surprised. He cupped his hands and bowed to Meng Qi again. Taoist Meng, the sect master wants to meet you alone. Is it convenient? Yes. Meng Qi nodded and stood up. Before the others could react, Su Junmo stood up as well. He had a headache now. He had not settled Ji Wujiong yet. Why did Pei Mufeng appear now? How could the sect master be all right? I'll go with you, Su Junmo said without hesitation. It's all right. Meng Qi smiled at him. I trust you, Pavilion Master Pei. It was not a matter of trust, all right. Su Junmo was full of complaints. He did not know where to start. But, please lead the way. Meng Qi smiled at him and said to the Descending Star Pavilion disciple, Thank you. The disciple instructed the other Descending Star Pavilion disciples in the side hall, and led Meng Qi out of the hall. Taoist Meng, this way please. He waved at the path on the right of the hall, and invited Meng Qi to go first. This path leads to the Star Lake. The sect master is waiting for you at the Star Lake. He explained. I can't enter without permission. I'll wait for you here. Please. Thank you. Meng Qi returned the gesture. She walked on the path that led to the Star Lake. She had heard Pei Mufeng mention this before. It was a secret place in the Descending Star Pavilion. It was similar to the Cool Breeze Valley's cold pond. The Star Lake could absorb the power of the stars. The cultivators of the 3,000 worlds could not directly use the spiritual energy in the power of the stars. However, the water of the Star Lake had a magical effect. It could turn the spiritual energy that could not be used by cultivators into spiritual energy that could be used by everyone. This was equivalent to another blessed place in the Descending Star Pavilion. The spirit chi in the starlight was always purer than the spirit chi in the 3,000 worlds. Cultivating here could yield twice the results with half the effort. The star lake transformed the spirit chi in the starlight very slowly. It could only allow people to cultivate for 3 days every year. Therefore, the descending star pavilion had always used it to reward disciples who had made great contributions. Even the pavilion master could not come here at any time. The star lake was not far away. Meng-Chi walked for a while, and turned a corner. From afar, she could see a small lake that looked like the purest and most transparent jade. The surroundings were surrounded by tall mountains that blocked the bright sunlight. However, there were specks of stars in the lake as if there were stars twinkling in it. The pavilion master of the descending star pavilion, Pei Mufeng, was standing by the lake. His back was facing Meng-Chi. His tall and slender body looked like a sharp sword that had yet to be unsheathed. Tall and straight, sharp. Meng-Chi also knew that once Pei Mufeng's sword was unsheathed, it would be peerless. She walked a few steps quickly. Pei Mufeng heard the footsteps and turned his head. Meng-Chi. He stood still and waited for Meng-Chi to walk over. Have you rested well? Yes. That day, I had been going to stop that Ji Wujiang. Pei Mufeng did not exchange pleasantries with her and said directly, he used a formation to trap me at the gates of the apricot forest. Yes. Meng-Chi nodded again. Ji Wujiang had mentioned this matter to him before. His tone was disdainful, his face full of disdain. It was all to show off the power of formation cultivators. Later, when I saw how strong he was in the trial boundary, I knew that he had been merciful to me. Pei Mufeng said openly, Ji Wujiang is very strong. A Xiuzhe that can use formations to fight. I fear that even the other weapon Xiu of the 4 Jia cannot do it. Yes. Meng-Chi was not surprised that Pei Mufeng would say this. He was a very pure person who spent all his thoughts on the path of the sword. Ji Wujiang's strength was undeniable. Even if he was trapped, he was still trapped. There was nothing that could not be said. Ji Wujiang seems to have said that he wants to take you as a disciple? Pei Mufeng was slightly uncertain. Yes. Meng-Chi did not know how to explain this. Fortunately, Pei Mufeng did not pursue the matter and said, do you have a sect now? Meng-Chi shook his head. Ji Wujiang is very strong. He can protect you now. Before you. Pei Mufeng's Adam's apple bobbed. He paused and then continued. I see that he has no ill intentions towards you. In the last battle in the trial boundary, he protected you very well. Why don't you consider his proposal? Meng-Chi tilted his head in surprise and looked at Pei Mufeng. Pei Mufeng spread his hand. There was a small and exquisite sword-shaped jade metal in his palm. The words Starfall were carved on the hilt. He did not finish his sentence, but Meng-Chi already understood what he meant. Pei Mufeng did not seem to want to finish his sentence. He seemed to think that Meng-Chi should understand what he meant. Joining the Starfall Pavilion is not a bad choice, but I'm going to the Starfall Sea soon, and will not return for 10 years. He said, you should be strong enough after 10 years. The most important thing is that these few years. Pei Mufeng was a little troubled. He frowned slightly. Meng-Chi, what do you plan to do? Meng-Chi. Actually, Ji Wujiang is not the best choice. He does things his own way and has offended many people. Pei Mufeng said, just this medical cultivator conference alone, I'm afraid that all the major medical cultivator sects in the 4 realms hate him to the core. He added, but it's always good to have his protection for 5 years. Wait. Meng-Chi finally understood. Pei Mufeng was worried about his safety, so he wanted to make plans for her before he left for the Starfall Sea. Renwina. Net Meng-Chi could not help but laugh. Should it be said that they were really close friends? She had been busy all night, worrying about Pei Mufeng's safety in the Starfall Sea. He was also thinking about her. Don't worry, Meng-Chi said. I have my own plans. As she spoke, she took out the brocade pouch that contained the pills she had refined from her storage bag, and handed it to Pei Mufeng. This is for you. Thank you. Pei Mufeng took the brocade pouch and sent his spiritual energy into it. This is. He looked at Meng-Chi in surprise. You asked me to wait for you today just to give me these? Yes, Meng-Chi said. Every step in the Starfall Sea is dangerous. You have to take care. She hesitated for a moment and said, if it's too strange, it's better not to take risks alone. Okay. Pei Mufeng nodded. He did not ask any more questions, nor did he refuse. He directly put the brocade pouch into his storage bag. I leave the Starfall Sea once every 3 months or half a year, Pei Mufeng said again. Yes. Mengqi nodded. If there's a chance, we can meet at that time. If there's an emergency. Pei Mufeng reached out and took a small black jade pendant from his neck. You can find me with this. Even if I'm in the Starfall Sea, I can receive messages. As he spoke, he put the black jade pendant carved into the shape of a crescent moon in Mengqi's hand. Okay. Mengqi did not refuse. She directly put the black jade pendant on her neck, and then carefully put it into her lapel to protect it. Mengqi, take care. You too. She looked at Pei Mufeng. The Starfall Sea is extremely dangerous. If you can advance, advance. If you can't, retreat. Where there's life, there's hope. Don't worry. Pei Mufeng's expression had always been cold and sharp, but at this moment his eyebrows relaxed. He curled the corners of his lips and smiled at Mengqi. I should go. He reached out and flicked his wrist. His natal longsword jumped out as if it had a mind of its own and landed beside him. Pei Mufeng reached out and touched the sword gently. His natal longsword suddenly rushed into the sky. In a flash, he turned into a black dot and disappeared. Mengqi raised her head and watched him leave. After a while, she turned her gaze to the Star Lake. The starlight was speckled, and the entire Star Lake was like a piece of translucent light blue jade. The water was clear and looked very beautiful. Mengqi stared blankly for a while, then turned around and was about to go back. He's already advanced to the spirit-severing stage. Yin Qingyan's voice suddenly sounded in her mind. Qingyan's Henjun? Mengqi was stunned. She didn't expect him to speak at this time. How did you? The sword spirit has cultivated to the perfection of level 6 and entered the fallen star sea not long ago. He's been tempered with the flesh and blood of strange beasts. I think he'll soon advance to level 7. Yin Qingyan interrupted her and continued. The fallen star pavilion has some foresight. He's indeed a good seedling for sword cultivation. Mengqi. She knew that Pei Mufeng's cultivation was not the highest in the fallen star pavilion, but his talent in sword cultivation was rarely matched. But she didn't know that Pei Mufeng was already a spirit-severing stage cultivator. In her memory, when she first saw him, he had just stepped into the spirit-severing stage. It was because he had just broken through and his realm was not stable that he was injured by strange beasts in the fallen star sea. She didn't expect that he was already a spirit-severing stage cultivator now. So powerful. Mengqi murmured. As for the sword spirit at the perfection of level 6, it was a method used by sword cultivators to distinguish their strength. It was roughly equivalent to a level 6 medical cultivator. Pei Mufeng was able to cultivate a level 6 sword spirit at his age. Looking at the history of sword cultivators for nearly 1,000 years, he should be second to none. He was really so powerful. Compared to him, she was really too weak. Not to mention that she had just entered the golden core stage. Her medical skills were also far from his. Yin Qingyan seemed to snort softly. Mengqi didn't hear clearly and couldn't help but ask, Qingyan's Henjun? So now that he has entered the fallen star sea, as long as he doesn't overestimate himself and go deep into the center, he won't die there, Yin Qingyan said. Understood. Mengqi was enlightened. She instantly beamed, and even her eyes became sparkling. Thank you, Qingyan's Henjun, for your explanation. I'm relieved now. So Senior Yin saw that she was worried, so she specially showed up to tell her this? Senior was really too kind. Don't call me Senior. Yin Qingyan gritted her teeth, and said almost word by word. Oh. Mengqi quickly reached out and covered her mouth. In fact, she didn't say it out loud at all. It was just a subconscious action. Mengqi instantly understood. So every time Senior appeared, stop calling me that. Yin Qingyan interrupted her thoughts again. Oh. Mengqi knocked her head in annoyance and quickly said, I know I was wrong. Qingyan's Henjun, I won't call you Senior Yin wrong this time. Yin Qingyan. Thank you, Qingyan's Henjun. Mengqi asked curiously, how did you know what I was thinking? I could when I was talking to you. Yin Qingyan didn't explain much. In fact, doing this would consume a lot of energy for him. However, it just so happened that the beast house was in Meng Qi's storage bag, so he could do it with her as a medium. Meng Qi nodded obediently and didn't ask any more questions. This Star Lake. Yin Qingyan pondered for a moment and said lightly, walk to the lakeside. Okay. Meng Qi hesitated for a moment, but still walked to the lakeside as she was told. She looked down at the lake water. The water was so clear that she could even see the patterns on the stones at the bottom of the lake. The starlight was like gold, flickering in the lake water. The light was gentle, and it was more like a rich and pure concentration of spiritual energy, so it wasn't dazzling. Can you see anything? Yin Qingyan asked. This lake water seems to be able to absorb the spiritual energy in the starlight, Meng Qi said. The bottom of the lake. Yin Qingyan reminded her. And the surroundings of the Star Lake. Look carefully. Okay. Meng Qi looked around the Star Lake. This time, with Yin Qingyan's instructions, she looked very carefully and didn't even miss a single blade of grass or tree by the lake. She also looked at the stones piled up by the lake, big and small, high and low. Ah! Meng Qi's gaze returned to the bottom of the lake, and she suddenly exclaimed softly, this is... Before she could finish speaking, the surface of the lake suddenly split open with a splash. A black figure emerged from the lake water and swept through the air as light as a cloud before landing steadily in front of Meng Qi. Ji Wujiong. Meng Qi blurted out and looked at the man in front of her in disbelief. Ji Wujiong shook off the lake water on his body until the last bit of starlight was absorbed into his body. Then he cast a spell and dried his clothes. Meng Qi. The black-robed man looked up at Meng Qi. We meet again. Why are you here? Meng Qi found it unbelievable. Pavilion Master Pei. He invited me here. Ji Wujiong curled his lips. That day, I was the first to leave the barrier of the competition. As expected, those old men from the medical cultivation Dharma assembly gathered people to ambush me outside. They were so ruthless. Tisk. He pursed his lips in disdain. They don't have the demeanor of a benevolent medical cultivator at all. I've said before that when necessary, those old men are very ruthless. They will kill you as well. When that time comes, they just have to say that they killed the wrong person and accidentally. They can even push all the blame onto me in the chaos. Meng Qi. She was already used to Ji Wujiong. Anyway, he would always mock her. And then? She asked, why are you in Starfall Valley? The person who attacked me first was that guy. I trapped him before, Pei Mufeng from the Starfall Pavilion, Ji Wujiong said. However, I gave him a few beauties that day. He should be touched. Although he charged very quickly and attacked quickly with his sword, I could tell at a glance that this guy had no intention of hurting me. Instead, he used his sword chi to open a gap for me and let me rush out of the apricot forest. Ji Wujiong added, at least he's sensible. Meng Qi was speechless. It was also him. When we were fighting, he softly told me that there was a star lake here, and that I could come here to recuperate after I left, Ji Wujiong said again. He turned to look at the starry Star Lake. You don't say. This guy has sharp eyes. He knew that the Star Lake would be good for my injuries. Meng Qi's heart suddenly moved. She subconsciously blurted out. Your spiritual ocean was torn apart by the barrier of the three realms? Ji Wujiong turned to look at Meng Qi. You're quite knowledgeable. Meng Qi did not say anything. Her mind spun as countless thoughts flashed through her mind. Meng Qi had started to read the book that Elder Lin Yan had left in her spiritual ocean. The moment Ji Wujiong had said to recuperate, she had suddenly thought of the other spiritual ocean that had looked like it was about to fall apart. She had speculated how the other had been wounded. At the start, she had thought that he had been wounded by an even stronger Xiuzha. Then she thought of the terrifying sea of Mo energy in the barrier of the great competition. Meng Qi had thought that the person who had wounded Ji Wujiong might have been a powerful Mo Xiu. She had just seen in Lin Yan's medical notes that while the three realms had existed since the ancient era, the barrier between the three realms had been formed naturally through cracks in space. Tens of thousands of years ago, the three realms had not been as clearly divided as they were now. Cracks would occasionally appear in the barrier, But those cracks would often change positions. If a Xiuzha was careless and was wounded by the cracks in the barrier, it might not look like anything on the outside, but that Xiuzha's spiritual ocean would be seriously wounded. In serious cases, the spiritual ocean would collapse and completely explode. Then medicine would be useless and could not be saved. But if one was wounded by the barrier, and the spiritual ocean had not completely collapsed, starlight could be used to repair the cracks in the spiritual ocean. The so-called starlight is a mysterious treasure that only exists in the demon realm. Ming-Chi had not even seen records of it in the books of the 3,000 worlds. According to Elder Lin Yan's description, it was stardust that had fallen from stars. It was obtained by the Sky Yao of the Yao world who were skilled in communicating with the power of stars. They could slowly refine the stardust and finally obtain the starlight. The starlight contained the purest stardust power. Then this star lake. Ming-Chi's gaze flashed slightly. She suddenly became excited. Hey! Ji Wujiang waved a hand in front of her. What are you thinking about? You are so lost in thought. You are in this star lake. Ming-Chi turned to look at Ji Wujiang and asked word by word. Repairing your spiritual ocean? Yes. Ji Wujiang nodded without hesitation. Ming-Chi exhaled softly, and her gaze quickly swept across the entire star lake. There is a large array in this star lake, she said. Ji Wujiang. He could also see that. Not only could he see that there was an array here, but he could also see what this array was. But it didn't make sense. This array was F*King. The Great Star Array. Ming-Chi said. Ji Wujiang. He suddenly became nervous. You know that this is the Great Star Array? Yes. Ming-Chi tilted her head slightly. But it's a little different from what I learned. At that moment, Ji Wujiang really wanted to curse. Even someone as calm as him felt that it was unbelievable. That was the Great Star Array. Even if Ming-Chi really became his disciple, and he took her in as a disciple, he would never teach her the Great Star Array. There was no other reason. This was an array that could only be taught to one's own people. Even he back then. He even taught her the Great Star Array. Ming-Chi even said that she only wanted to become that person's disciple. That respectful tone. Ji Wujiang suddenly wanted to laugh out loud. Although he didn't know who that unlucky guy was, as long as he thought about how that guy, who didn't lose to him in terms of arrays, was humiliated by Ming-Chi. I want you to be my wife, but you only want to be my disciple. Awesome. It was really super awesome. He was so happy. Ji Wujiang frowned slightly, barely suppressing his laughter, and turned to look at Ming-Chi. The green-robed girl stood by the star lake with a serious expression. Her eyes were serious and focused, and there was even a hint of struggle. Ming-Chi, Ji Wujiang said. Then what is the Great Star Array that you learned like? Chapter 97. Ming-Chi glanced at Ji Wujiang. Is there anything different about the Great Star Formation? Of course, Ji Wujiang said matter-of-factly. Do you know how the Great Star Formation came about? I don't know. Ming-Chi replied casually. Her gaze was focused on the star lake in front of her. The specks of starlight in the lake seemed to be dimmer than before. If Ji Wujiang could be treated here, did that mean that little Chi could be treated too? In addition to the previous external injuries, little Chi's more serious internal injuries were actually more serious. Ming-Chi was at her wit's end, because she had never heard of starlight before. But now Ming-Chi? Ji Wujiang raised his voice. Ming-Chi came back to her senses. Sorry, what were you saying just now? I was a little distracted. I know you're distracted, I said. Ji Wujiang flicked his finger, and a branch appeared in his hand. Ming-Chi looked up at his hand that was holding the branch. The man in black looked much more energetic than before. Even the sickly paleness on his face didn't seem so obvious. And his thin lips even had a faint color. Was the star lake so useful? She suddenly felt a little tempted. Hey! Ji Wujiang lifted the branch and waved it in front of Ming-Chi's eyes. I'm talking to you. Look at the ground. Oh. Ming-Chi looked at the ground as she was told. Her eyebrows twitched. This is... What the other party drew on the ground was a very small corner of a formation. A very small part of the Great Star Formation. Ji Wujiang said. You don't recognize it? Oh, Mengqi shook her head. Does the Great Star Formation also have many variations? Ji Wujiang. Right now he really wanted to find the guy who taught Mengqi the Great Star Formation, and shake his head to see how much water there was in his brain. With such a fine talent in front of him, what kind of nonsense was he teaching? You. Ji Wujiang lost his temper. Looking at Mengqi's clear black and white eyes, he felt helpless. Don't you know how the Great Star Formation came about? Passed down from ancient times? Mengqi asked tentatively. Inheritance, my ass, Ji Wujiang said angrily. He stretched out his leg and quickly wiped away the previous array before drawing another one. What about this one? No. Mengqi shook his head. This. Ji Wujiang quickly drew a new corner of the array. Mengqi shook his head. Ji Wujiang continued to draw. Mengqi still shook his head. He gritted his teeth and tried more than 10 types of Mengqi in one breath, but he had never seen any of them before. In the end, she sighed and said, So there are so many types of great star arrays. Ji Wujiang snorted lightly and threw down the branch with his arms crossed in front of his chest. The matter was clear. Great star arrays were the foundation of the Sky Yao clan. Sky Yao were stronger than normal Yaoxiu because of this. They did not need to work hard to obtain Ling energy like the Xiuzha of the 3,000 worlds. Because from birth, they had star arrays inside their bodies and could automatically absorb the Ling energy in starlight to cultivate. All the clans of the Sky Yao had a rule that the star arrays of the clan were forbidden from being leaked. Of course, this did not stop those who wanted to explore. From the ancient times until now, there were still many star arrays of the Sky Yao clans that were known to outsiders. However, there were some exceptions. Those were the royal clans of the Sky Yao. Ji Wujiang could be considered very knowledgeable in the area of formations. He took a deep breath and turned to look silently at Mengqi. It seemed that the background of the person behind the other was even higher than he had imagined. Mengqi. Ji Wujiang's expression was solemn. If the person who taught you the array comes to you again. Mengqi's eyes lit up. Come to me again? Ji Wujiang. He shut his mouth and did not bother to say anything else. Why didn't he have the luck to meet Mengqi first? All right, let's continue talking about this star lake. Ji Wujiang said. Since you can see that there is a star array here. By the way, he paused for a moment before continuing. Let me correct you. Not all star arrays can be called great arrays. Only a few very special ones can be called great star arrays. Oh, Mengqi nodded. This is a star array. The lake water is rather special. There must be something else at the bottom of the lake. It could be. Ji Wujiang narrowed his eyes. Stardust? Mengqi finished the sentence. You know about stardust? Ji Wujiang was a little surprised. You know a lot, Mengqi. I've heard of it, Mengqi said calmly. Stardust can be used to refine starlight and repair the cracks in the spirit sea. So there should be stardust in the star lake. I just don't know what the shape of this stardust is. This is unique to the demon realm. Ji Wujiang explained. When stars fall, occasionally fragments and remains will fall into the demon realm and be obtained by the heavenly demons. Some heavenly demons can refine them into starlight. I see. Mengqi nodded thoughtfully. During the refining process, you have to add spirit herbs and spirit flowers unique to the demon realm. Yes. Mengqi lowered his head and pondered. He asked, is it spirit-devouring grass, nightless fruit, 5 spirit flower and Taishian wood? Ji Wujiang. Did someone tell you how to refine starlight? I guessed, Mengqi said lightly. To repair the cracks in the spirit sea, you have to use these spirit herbs and spirit flowers. She paused and then said, these are all rare treasures. As far as I know, 5 spirit flower and Taishian wood can only be found in the Starfall Sea in the 3,000 worlds. That's right. Ji Wujiang nodded. You have to use these to refine stardust, plus, hey. He glanced at Mengqi. Keep guessing. Why aren't you guessing? What else do you want to add? Mengqi took 2 steps forward, bent down, and scooped up a handful of water from the star lake. The water in the star lake in Starfall Valley is very special. She opened her hand and let the cold lake water leak through her fingers. There was a cold pond at the peak of the sect where I used to be. There was cold spring spirit dew in the pond. When a cultivator fails to pass the tribulation and falls into chi deviation, their realm will fall. That is the best thing to calm the mind. Meng Qi turned to look at the Star Lake. The Star Lake in Stardew Valley was not big. It was far less vast than the cold pond in Cool Breeze Valley. Although it was called a lake, it was actually less than 1 mile wide. There is a lot of cold spring spirit dew in this Star Lake. It is far more than the cold spring spirit dew in the cold pond in Cool Breeze Valley. Meng Qi said, "Is this the water used by the demon realm to refine stardust?" She turned to look at Ji Wujiang and asked, "Is that so?" Ji Wujiang took a deep look at Meng Qi. "You know a lot." Meng Qi smiled sweetly. This was actually her guess. In order to save Su Junmo, Meng Qi and he spent a long time together. The talkative fox was a super gossipy person. There was nothing that he couldn't say. The romantic history of the big shots in the demon realm, the local customs of the demon realm, the special customs. Su Junmo had told Meng Qi many times. Anyway, her ears would suffer. Meng Qi simply sorted out these useful things. She didn't know about starlight. Even Su Junmo didn't mention it. But from the book that Lin Yan gave her, she saw the use of starlight. Then she heard Ji Wujiang say that there were heavenly demon descendants in the demon realm who could refine starlight. She remembered that Su Junmo had told her that there was a big lake in the demon realm made up of cold spring spirit dew. At that time, Meng Qi still yearned for it. That was cold spring spirit dew. A small porcelain bottle was very precious. There was a big lake full of it. Just imagining it made Meng Qi dazzled. There is a lot of cold spring spirit dew in this Star Lake, so I guess that a piece of stardust fell into the lake by chance many years ago. Then, Meng Qi looked around the Star Lake. A senior left a star formation here. Although she didn't recognize the star formations drawn by Ji Wujiang, she thought that after the formations were activated, they should be similar. So when she saw the spiritual energy flickering in the Star Lake, she guessed that there must be a star formation here. That's right. Ji Wujiang took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "That person used the Star Lake as the eye of the formation to attract the spiritual energy of the stars, and used the cold spring spirit dew to refine the stardust." But there were no spiritual herbs and spiritual flowers like the 5-spirit flower, so he only left the spiritual energy in the starlight in this lake. It can help cultivators improve their cultivation speed, but it's still far from enough to repair the spiritual sea. Meng Qi's heart suddenly jumped a few beats. Ji Wujiang glanced at her. "Meng Qi, how about we find the stardust in this lake?" Meng Qi instantly felt her mouth go dry, and she was extremely tempted. She had never seen the legendary stardust. If it really existed here, she could find herbs like the spirit-devouring grass and the 5-spirit flower. In addition to the cold spring spirit dew, she also knew the star formation. Then she would have all the conditions to refine the stardust. How about it? Ji Wujiang chuckled softly. If we find the stardust, we can definitely refine it into stardust. No. Meng Qi swallowed with some difficulty. Her voice was slightly hoarse, but she still said firmly, "This is Starfall Valley. Pavilion Master Pei has already been very kind to let you recuperate here. We can't do such a thing." "Ranwen, are you just going to watch them waste God's gift like this?" Ji Wujiang sneered. "You actually use such a rare treasure of heaven and earth just to help the disciples of your sect cultivate. It can only improve their cultivation speed, but it's better than nothing. Only 3 people can come in a year, and each person gets 1 day. Teashe." He shook his head disdainfully and said lazily, "It's probably because they can break through from the nascent soul stage to the spirit-severing stage in 20 years. With the help of this Star Lake, they can break through in 19 years and 350 days. Meng Qi. Could Ji Wujiang be any more sharp-tongued? The stardust here is definitely not small. Let's find it, refine it into stardust, and give a part of it to Starfall Valley." Ji Wujiang added. "For them it's much more cost-effective than saving 10 days of cultivation time, isn't it?" Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat again. She was stunned for a moment, but she still shook her head. This matter still needs the permission of the Starfall Valley's disciples. When the stardust falls, It falls into the Star Lake with the cold spring spirit dew, Ji Wujiong said. The person who left the star formation here is definitely not their people. Starfall Valley just happened to get this place by chance. What credit does it have? Meng-Chi, if you can really refine the stardust, you'll definitely save countless lives. When did you become so pedantic? Ji Wujiong raised his eyebrows and sneered. Everything in this world belongs to the capable. Idiots who only know how to waste natural resources don't deserve to have them. After he finished speaking, he flicked his finger, and the pitch-black narrow saber was held in his hand. I want to take it. If you don't want it, it's all mine. Wait. Meng-Chi closed her eyes and took out a porcelain bottle from her storage bag. She stuffed 2 stardust into her mouth. The stardust is divided into 3 portions. We each take 1 portion, and the rest will be given to the Starfall Pavilion. Okay. Ji Wujiong raised his eyebrows. I thought you'd be so pedantic that you wouldn't agree. Pavilion Master Pei is an upright person and treats people sincerely. Meng-Chi said. But you're right. She paused and said, I know of a special pill that will increase a cultivator's cultivation after taking it. The effect is about the same as the Star Lake now, but you can't take too many. At most, you can take 1 every 3 years. I'll make some for the Starfall Pavilion, and give them the pill recipe as well. Meng-Chi. Ji Wujiong stood by the Star Lake with his narrow saber. Do you know? Nothing. Ji Wujiong laughed softly. He already felt that Meng-Chi was a bit strange when they were in the boundary of the great competition. If he said she was kind and gentle, she could decisively propose the idea of ambushing and exterminating the soaring snake sect. If he said she was cruel and cold-hearted, she never took the opportunity to help him when he was injured and poisoned. Her first reaction was always to save him. And now again. Ji Wujiong originally thought that it would take a lot of effort to convince Meng-Chi. He didn't expect her to accept so quickly. This girl is really weird. Let's go, Ji Wujiong said. He gripped the pitch-black narrow saber in his hand. His slender body was like an agile fish as he dove into the Star Lake. Meng-Chi took out the black diving suit from her storage bag. She bought it at the Cloud Immortal Pavilion, and it was better than the one she used to have. Once she stuck it on her body, she could wear it directly over her green robe. It was very convenient to use. Moreover, it could withstand the attacks of sharp weapons. It was equivalent to an underwater soft armor. Meng-Chi also quickly jumped into the Star Lake. Although the Star Lake wasn't big, it would take a long time for a person to search slowly. Cultivators could breathe underwater without hindrance, especially since she had already formed her gold core. She quickly stood at the bottom of the lake and walked forward as if she was walking on flat ground. Ji Wujiong was about 50 feet away on her right. There was a lot of cold spring spirit dew in the Star Lake. Meng-Chi had 2 grains of spring warmth in her mouth. Even though she was wearing the diving suit, she still felt the coldness penetrating her bones. Fortunately, the bottom of the Star Lake was filled with soft white sand, so there was no danger. The 2 of them searched together, and their movements were quite fast. After less than an hour, they searched the entire bottom of the lake. Meng-Chi circled around and returned to the center of the lake. Ji Wujiong was already waiting there. She spread her hands, indicating that she hadn't found anything. Ji Wujiong also shrugged. When she had come to Starfall Valley, it had already been afternoon. After such a delay, the sky gradually darkened. Dusk started to cover the entire valley. Even the clear lake water seemed slightly dark. Meng-Chi reflexively raised her head to look at the sky. The earliest stars were already flashing in the sky. At this time, the sky wasn't completely dark yet, and the starlight was almost undetectable. Meng-Chi stilled and then suddenly pulled Ji Wujiong's arm, indicating for him to look at the sky with her. Ji Wujiong looked at the stars on the horizon and scolded himself for being too stupid. He narrowed his eyes. His Ling Si was damaged, causing his Ling energy to not exist, and his cultivation was unstable. But he was a true fused spirit Xiuzha. His eyes were very good. That streak of starlight seemed to be there in Meng-Chi's eyes, but Ji Wujiong could see it clearly. He moved down along the streak of starlight. He suddenly turned and quickly walked to the left. Meng-Chi hurriedly followed. The bottom of the lake was filled with fine sand, and they all looked the same. There were no plants, nor any living creatures such as fish or prawns. Ji Wujiang walked to a place and stopped. He inserted the narrow knife in his hand into the fine sand. The sharpness of the narrow knife could cut iron into mud. Now that it had been inserted less than an inch, it couldn't go any deeper. Mengqi half knelt and reached out to carefully brush away the fine sand around the narrow knife. The white sand was gradually brushed away, revealing the hard black thing underneath. It was neither iron nor stone, and there were specks of golden light mixed in it. Mengqi raised her head and smiled at Ji Wujiang, then lowered her head and continued to brush away the fine sand. Soon, the entire black stardust was completely exposed. She reached out to take it, but she couldn't lift it at all. Ji Wujiang waved his hand at her, indicating for her to move aside and try it himself. That thing wasn't big, only the size of Mengqi's 2 palms. There was also fine sand under the stardust, and it didn't seem to be fixed. Ji Wujiang reached out to hold the stardust and tried to lift it. His body suddenly staggered, and he almost fell out. Mengqi, this stardust is so heavy. She looked at it with interest. If it weren't for the specks of golden light mixed in the middle, this stardust would really look a little inconspicuous. Ji Wujiang almost made a fool of himself in front of Mengqi, and he instantly flew into a rage out of humiliation. He waved his hand again, indicating for Mengqi to move aside. The narrow black knife quickly drew a small array on the ground, and then indicated for Mengqi to give him the spirit stones. Mengqi. She threw a few 8th grade spirit stones into the array, and the array suddenly shone brightly, rushing straight toward the stardust. Ji Wujiang took advantage of the opportunity to insert the narrow knife under the stardust and pry it open. The stardust finally shook a little. F***ck. Ji Wujiang cursed silently. He was about to continue drawing the array, when Mengqi's heart suddenly moved. She motioned for Ji Wujiang to not move, and then took out a feather from her storage bag. She bought that from the Immortal Cloud Pavilion. It was said to be a feather from a heavenly demon from the demon realm, and it could make anything as light as it. Mengqi carefully placed the feather on the stardust, then reached out and held the stardust again. The thing that she couldn't move at all suddenly shook slightly. Mengqi looked up and smiled at Ji Wujiang. It seemed to be useful. She simply held the stardust with both hands and slowly lifted it. The pitch-black stardust finally left the fine sand, and Mengqi held it in her hands. She got it. She waved at Ji Wujiang, indicating that they could leave the Star Lake. Sikong Shing and the others should be waiting anxiously, and she should go back. Before Mengqi could finish her thought, she saw Ji Wujiang's face suddenly become extremely frightened. He couldn't make a sound underwater, so Ji Wujiang held his narrow saber and directly pounced on Mengqi. Before Mengqi could react, she felt a huge suction force suddenly emerging from under her feet. At that moment, her reaction was extremely fast. She waved her left hand and put the stardust into her storage bag. In an instant, Mengqi felt the world spin, and her entire body was sucked into a pitch-black void. The suction force was extremely terrifying, and Mengqi didn't dare to resist at all. Moreover, she didn't have time to do anything else, so she could only go with the suction force. She could feel that she was going downwards. She didn't know how long the darkness lasted, but there was finally a glimmer of light in front of her eyes. Oh! The suction force came and went quickly, and Mengqi was suddenly thrown out and fell heavily to the ground. She was a little dazed from the fall. After a while, Mengqi gradually came back to her senses. She was thrown on a piece of soft grass, so she wasn't injured. However, in front of her was no longer the crystal-clear lake water of the Star Lake. Mengqi slowly stood up and looked around. The night sky shrouded this place, and the stars in the sky were twinkling. As far as the eye could see, it looked like countless bright diamonds were inlaid in the dark blue night. She had never seen such a brilliant star before. Even the sky seemed to be much closer to her. Not far from her, there was a forest. It was difficult to see clearly in the dark, and the shadows of the trees were vague, and she couldn't see the end of it. On her left, there was a hill that wasn't very high. On her right, there was an extension of the grass under her feet, and she also couldn't see the end of it at a glance, as if it stretched directly to the distant horizon. Where was this place? It was quiet all around. Perhaps because it was night, There weren't even the sounds of birds or insects. There was only the occasional wind blowing, and the leaves rustled. Where was Ji Wujiang? Mengqi looked around. Just now, she picked up the stardust, and then she was sent here by a huge suction force. What about Ji Wujiang? Was he okay? Thinking of this, Mengqi reached out and touched her storage bag. The stardust was still there. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the moment she was sucked in, she reacted quickly and put away the stardust. So, was this place still in Starfall Valley? Mengqi looked around and decided to go to the hill to see where she was sent to. She made up her mind and walked towards the small mountain. The hill wasn't far from her, and Mengqi soon reached the foot of the hill. The hill wasn't steep, and Mengqi stood at the top of the hill in a moment. This time, she could see a little further. In front of the hill, there was a huge lake. As the stars were too bright, Mengqi could see the sparkling gold on the surface of the lake even in the dark. The bright stars were reflected in the lake, and it was as if there were stars shining in the lake. It was very beautiful. However, the lake was too big. Mengqi couldn't see the end of it. It was like the sea. Where was this place? Mengqi wasn't familiar with the surroundings of Starfall Valley, and she was even more confused now. She couldn't see the city in any direction. So, was she sent to a place further away from Starfall Valley? She looked up at the sky, trying to figure out the direction before making a decision. Mengqi, third style of the Silver Moon Sword illustration. Yin Qingyan's voice suddenly sounded. Quick. Mengqi didn't realize what was happening, but she reacted instinctively to Yin Qingyan's words. Before she could react, her body had already moved. The third style of the Silver Moon Sword illustration was to leap into the air and attack the enemy. Mengqi was wearing a black diving suit, and her slim figure leaped into the air. Only then did she feel an extremely sharp gust of wind sweep past her feet. If she leaped a little later, she would have been injured by the gust of wind. Mengqi exhaled quickly. Yin Qingyan would always appear when she was in danger, or when she couldn't make up her mind. Just like in her previous life, he was the person who treated her the best and cared about her the most. Before Mengqi landed, another gust of wind came from behind her. Evil creature. In the dark night, a man's clear voice suddenly sounded. This time it wasn't just in Mengqi's mind, but the black figure behind her. Mengqi suddenly opened her eyes wide. The man in the white robe seemed to have descended from the sky. He stood in the air, raised his hand gently, and then pressed it down. His sleeves were blown by the night wind and swept across Mengqi's face. In front of him, a long and sharp scream suddenly sounded. Then, a strong smell of blood rushed to Mengqi's face, and she felt like vomiting. Bang! A loud sound was heard. It seemed that something huge had fallen heavily to the ground. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Mengqi hadn't even landed on the ground. The man in the white robe turned around and looked at her. He brushed his sleeves again and gently supported Mengqi's waist, allowing her to land steadily on the ground. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.